the tape, let's grind. Shut up, the tape. Let's grind. Let's the tape. We do it a little bit different around here.
We ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. Shut up and grind the tape.
Let's grind.
We ain't gonna play. Them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape. Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The tape.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
The tape.
UGA game day, boy, we ball out. Pull up, put the whole conference in the doghouse. Leave them 6 feet, see me on the win streak. All-star status, go coach, and the bench deep. Right. Offense on 10, how we run it? Your best ain't nothing, we gon' send them boys punting. Yeah. Black and red, got them dead on arrival. Defense hunker down for the tie. Hey, you don't want it with the dogs. Found guy on it, you don't want it with my dog. Break it down, play by play, that's the day-to-day. Yeah. They know we ain't come to play, boy, it's UGA. Right. Kirby Smart, I cannot play the fool. Back to back, we did not come to lose. Back to back, like we got something to prove. Pay your dues, dog nation on the move. What's up?
We do it a little bit different around here.
We ain't come to play. Shut up and grind the tape.
The tape.
We ain't come to play. Them dogs in your face.
Let's grind.
We ain't come to play. Shut up and grind the tape.
Shut up. Let's grind.
We ain't come to play. Them dogs in your face. Shut up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape.
The
Shut
tape.
up and grind.
Let's grind.
Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape. Shut up and grind. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro. Grind the tape, bro.
Shut up.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to MBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes that I'm hot about. What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome in to the Film Guy Network on a fabulous Monday evening brought to you by our friends over at BetUS. As usual, I have an absolutely loaded show for you guys planned tonight. We had a great one yesterday on our Sunday's reaction show. You guys showed up in droves. We've already gone over 10, maybe 11,000 views on our film study from today, which apparently a lot of you guys watch but don't really pay attention to. But nonetheless, I want to open with this right here. People are always looking to confirm their own narratives. That's what I've kind of learned doing this over the years. And I ain't gonna lie, I'm not 2 decades into this. All right, I'm about a half decade into this, and that's the one thing that I for sure know. When people watch a football game, they make up their own narrative, they decide their own narrative, and then they look for it in the analysis, and they're only looking for that in their analysis. And I know this because I can sit here and I can provide elite, non-biased, non-shtick analysis, and people will come here looking to confirm what they already think about a football game that they're coming to find out extra analysis about. We do it a little different around here. That's not just a saying. That is a legit fact about this network. I know other people are doing film study, but we do it different around here. I get on that board every Monday, and I stand up there for 90 minutes, sometimes 2 hours, and I break down every single play by play, walk through the game, show you exactly what happened on the film. It's right there in front of you. There's no narrative to spin. There's no analysis to tether or to stretch, or it's right there in front of you. It's non-biased as film. There's no way to spin it. There's no way to steer it. It is non-biased right there in front of you. I'll get up on that board tomorrow, and I'll spend another 90 minutes to 2 hours breaking down the second half of that football game between Alabama and Georgia, and people will still come to the comments, and they will rage comment about different narratives that they came here to talk about, despite the fact that they were proving that most of these narratives aren't necessarily true. And I'm going to rattle through a bunch of these, and I'm going to break them down one by one, and I'm going to show you that the film, the actual football that happened on Saturday night, does not lead to any type of realistic analysis that some of these narratives out there are. What are some of these narratives? Consistently, we cover Georgia. Georgia played Saturday night, so one of the narratives has to be that Bobo sucks. All right, the other narrative, oh, you got to bench Carson Beck. That was terrible. We've seen that narrative. And one of my favorites, Bama let up. Bama let up in this football game. That's the only reason Georgia came back in it. They took their foot off the gas. I got two facts for you. Fact number one, Bama out-executed Georgia to a rate that was unfathomable for about 12 minutes in this football game. Fact. No doubts about it. Fact. Out-executed their butt to an extreme for 12 minutes. The other fact, as my voice cracks, the other fact, okay, these two football teams were really, really good, and they went to war for the other 38 minutes of this football game and played a really, really tight football game and a really, really close one. And here's what I want to do. I want to go by each one of these, go through each one of these, and kind of let you know that it's fugazi analysis to do this type of stuff. All right, the first one, Bama let up. Let's address this one on both sides of the football. Saw a bunch of people in my mentions, bunch of people in our YouTube comments being out here like, bro, they stopped blitzing. They stopped getting after Carson Beck. They just let up, played, foot off the gas defense. Guys, I went through that entire first half. I saw one true blitz. It was on a 3rd and 10, ball on Georgia's own 5. They have an opportunity to get a safety. They did exactly that. One true blitz in that entire first half. The rest of it, single high defense, okay? A lot of bodies dedicated to the run, a lot of bodies dedicated to the box, and one single high safety. The only other adjustment from Alabama's defense, the only other coverage that they would play was against duos, meaning two wide receivers on both sides of the football for Georgia. Alabama would play that split, what we call bracketed coverage, split zone bracket coverage. A defender on the inside, a defender on the outside, safety over the top. That was it. And do you know how I know that Alabama made no real defensive adjustments throughout this entire game? Well, because at the end of the game, when they needed it, Georgia designed a double move that was predicated on beating the exact same defense that Alabama had been playing for 4 quarters. It was obvious that you didn't adjust defensively because Georgia's offense started to attack you because you weren't adjusting. You were playing cover 1, man defense with that one bracketed zone coverage off of that. That's why they were able to attack you. You didn't stop blitzing. You stopped getting Georgia in 3rd and 10 inside their own 5. By God, if you got them in that again, I would guarantee you Kane Womack would be dialing up some type of pressure to get some type of safety. Okay, so that's the first one. They didn't change any looks defensively. They didn't become less aggressive. In fact, the reason Georgia had success in the second half was because you were doing the exact same thing that you'd been doing most of the football game. So I want to address that. Now, as for the quote-unquote offensive quote-unquote let-up from Alabama, your system is your system. This is something we talked about going into the football game. You're the most explosive team in college football, but you have periods of stagnation. You had this going into the game. You've had this for the last 2 football seasons, depending or not mattering who your coordinator is. It's about the quarterback and about the way you play offense. Okay, this boom or bust style. Now, this boom or bust, you were booming like hell. And then 4 out of 5 consecutive possessions, you finished in a punt. Now, most of that was in the second half, and Alabama fans will come into these mentions and they'll be like, hey, man, we was out here taking our foot off the gas, running the ball, avoiding Milroe, not using him like we were in the first half. Guys, in those 5 possessions, 4 of which ended in a punt, in those 4 possessions, the only possessions in the football game Alabama punted, the moment in the football game where Georgia's crawling back into it, those 4 possessions that ended in a punt had 17 total plays. Of those 17 total plays, Jalen Milroe ran 5 of them and dropped back to pass on 8 of them, completing 5 of those 8. In other words, Jalen Milroe was deployed on 13 of the 17 plays in the stretch of the game in which Alabama fans tell me they were squatting on the ball. No. Georgia made defensive adjustments, bumped to a 3-3-5, played a lot more high safety looks, and caused some checkdowns, rallied to the football, and tackled for the first time in the football game. Another narrative. Bobo sucks. Bobo sucks. We see this all the time. All the time. Bobo put up 519 yards of total offense, 34 points, and managed to, do all of that despite the fact that his offense turned the ball over 4 times. Now, we'll talk about execution a little bit later. Your coach's job is to make sure your players are executing, but I saw a coordinator designing some open shots the entire game. For 4 quarters, in fact. The entire football game saw that. Now, saw a lot of narrative about Carson sucking. Maybe we need to pull this guy. By the way, that's how you know you made it as a Georgia quarterback. The moment they start thinking you need to be pulled is the first time you've really become a Georgia quarterback. We saw it with Fromm, saw it with Stetson, saw it with Carson now. So we've seen that. But Arian busts on a route, pick, terrible, can't have it. Don't think they'll tell you this publicly. Don't think they will. But I am of the belief that maybe there was a busted route on the final interception. Just going to throw that one out there. They can't come out and say that. Quarterback can't come out there and say that. Maybe it was there. All right, so Carson, yes, had a terrible, terrible interception right before the half. Can't have it. That's a mistake a fifth-year senior that's going to be a first-round draft pick can't do. Also, about threw another pick six to Deontay Lawson backed up in your own end. Can't do that. Can't take a safety. All these things. Certainly can't fumble in the middle of the third, fourth quarter whenever that tragic turnover happened. But I'm not sitting here telling you guys that there's one way to analyze this football game, because there's not. All right, but I certainly think there are wrong ways to analyze this football game, especially when the film says that they didn't do that. Right? Especially when the film says it didn't work out like that. I think there are some real analysis points that you can take away from this football game. First and foremost, Jalen Milroe was the best football player on this field. And if these teams rematch again, he will remain the best football player on the field. There's no doubts about that. Everyone can look at that, watch that football game, tell that he was the determining factor. Number 2, not disputable. Bama out-executed Georgia for an entirety of 4 quarters. They didn't do it the entire time, but they did it more often. That's why they won the football game. Number 3, Georgia has an execution problem on the offensive side of the football. There is no doubt about that. There are plays left on tape every single week. I can say that with certainty after watching that football game. Number 4, this is real. You can't take much from Georgia's offensive performance in the second half of that football game, because they were going for it on 4th down. They had every single down available to them. So if I came to you and said, hey, it's all roses, everything's fine and good, just look what Georgia's offense did in the second half, I would turn around and say, well, it's a little bit fugazi. They had 4th downs. You can't really apply that. It's a little bit skewed of analysis. Number 5, and perhaps the most important takeaway, Ryan Williams is 17 years old.
Oh.
And he's really friggin' good. He's really friggin' good. The other crazy false narrative, Brooks is a homer. Buddy, I picked Bama to win the damn game. What are y'all doing? Brooks is a homer. No, Brooks tries to watch the game analytically, bring it to you with no bias. Just tell you what happened. And that's what happened on Saturday night. Georgia came out playing like dog shit. Bama executed really, really well for 12 minutes. Then team settled in. Georgia's coaching staff made a ton of adjustments, particularly defensively. Bama made none. That was it. I'm done. I isolated for 12 minutes. I'm good. I felt like that needed to be done because it's just too easy. Too easy. And that's my other primary takeaway. I think it's way easier to sit there and blame your own coaches than it is to, or blame your own players than it is to turn around and give credit where credit is due to the opposition. When Alabama fans sit there and say, we took our foot off the gas, you're basically blaming a coach for a loss that didn't happen, right? Ryan Williams rescued Kalen DeBoer Saturday night. That's what we're telling everyone when we do that. No, that's not the reality of the situation. So I think the realistic criticism is, why did you show up not flat, but why are we not executing as an offense and as a football team to start this football game those first 12 minutes? That open for criticism. The rest, I thought Georgia settled in and played football.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty cut and dry to me in the first quarter. Alabama was playing perfect football. I mean, on offense, you watch those 4 drives where they go and score 28 points. It almost felt like, dang, Georgia, I don't even know what you can do at this point because Alabama is executing at such a high clip on offense and they're doing things. It's like, I don't know what else I could tell you to do other than Alabama is playing perfect on offense. They did it for 4 straight drives, and it put you down 28-0 while your offense is not executing at all. Your offense is not playing perfect football, and your offense is also putting your defense in bad spots. So the credit deserved to Alabama for opening the game as best as you possibly could have asked for, and that ultimately won them the football game.
I honestly told myself while writing those notes I was going to control my tone. I was going to be nice and melancholy.
You knew that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, knew that wasn't going to happen. Immediately ramped up. Think my face got red there for a second.
A little bit.
Yeah. Welcome in. We got a great show for you guys tonight. We're going to be talking about those Week 5 reactions, a lot of football games. We knew going into this weekend going to be a lot of close football games. I think we got some of that, particularly out of the mid-major window. But we got a great show for you guys planned on that one with the reaction show on Week 5. Florida State has a quarterback change, which has led me to a potential prediction that I want to get to tonight, because I think we're going to see more and more of what we saw today around college football. But first and foremost, I want to ask you guys to go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, review if you haven't already. And I also want to give a quick shout out to our friends over at BetUS. If you're looking for a new book this season, guys, BetUS is your place. I'm 5-3 on dead locks this year. Went 0 for 2 this weekend. It's okay. We're going to bounce back. We are going to bounce back this week on BetUS. 150% sign-up bonus over there right now on your first deposit, with 125% on your next 2, up to $2,000 if you use code YouTube150 today. Promo code YouTube150 over there with our friends over at BetUS. We got to get off that. We got to get off the wagon here. We got to get positive. We got to get off this 0 for 2 streak and get to that, 6-3, maybe 7-3. Might need to do a little insider trading maybe to get it done.
How'd your G5 picks go?
I went 4-1 on the week.
Hell yeah.
Oh.
Hell yeah.
Shift of the tides,
That puts
maybe?
us 3 games over 500 on Curb's picks this year, right?
Yes, sir.
So you're 3 games over 500. I'm 3 games over 500. Not bad on the slate this year over on BetUS.
You know, all this talk makes you realize. R.I.P. Pete Rose.
R.I.P., man. R.I.P. You got any more takeaways about that Alabama-Georgia game, or should we get into these Week 5 reactions and then circle back to this sucker?
There's plenty of takeaways. We can circle back to it, though.
Let's circle back. I already cooked that one for a minute. We'll let the chat get after each other for a little while, and we'll come back to that. I do see some super subs that I want to go ahead and address right now. This one comes from John Safford. To all you Bobo the Bozo fools, thank you for letting us know who knows absolutely zero about football except, quote, he run fast, he scored tutty. Facts.
Hell yeah.
John Safford said this one for that busted-ass chair. Who's got a busted-ass chair?
It's not me. I got the nicest one.
Yeah, you do. I guess it's mine and my back. So that one will go straight to the chiropractor that I don't believe in. Freaking witchcraft doctors, those guys. If you're a chiropractor listening today, I apologize.
Nothing a school desk can't fix.
Huh?
Nothing a school desk can't fix.
Nothing a school desk? Oh, bro. A good back popping at a school desk was premier.
Mm-hmm.
You are so right about that. What else? That's a good one. That's solid. I haven't gotten a good back crack like that since I left high school. That's a good shout.
I have to purchase me one. Just keep it in my house for it.
Get an inversion table.
Hang upside down?
Oh, yeah.
Just make sure you don't get stuck on one of those things.
Yeah.
Could
All
be
right.
bad.
Week 5 reactions. Where do we want to start? We want to start with Oklahoma and Auburn?
Let's do it.
Man,
I would say this is probably the next most exciting game of
the rare time where defense is so good that it causes the over to hit.
Hell yeah, dude. Glad
right?
it did.
That was nuts. I had a buddy of mine call me. He was like, you like Oklahoma -2.5? I was like, I like that under big time because offenses suck in that one. Offenses suck too hard in that one.
Yeah, they suck too much in that one.
Yeah.
Two turnover likely teams.
Yeah, a little bit too much there for me.
This was a disastrous game for Auburn. I mean, you were kind of leaning on Oklahoma the entire game. You had the win in the bag, and you throw a very, very bad pick six because you get baited into it by some bluff pressures, and then the wheels fall off there.
I'm going to let you go because I've got a hammer home run stat for Hugh Freeze's ass.
Oh, okay. I like that one.
Yeah, I stole your job tonight.
Well, Kirby already did it once, so now you're doing it. So I think I'm just unemployed at this point. I think I have to find a new stick.
Yep.
This is disastrous for Auburn, not only because you lost the football game, obviously, and because you have a pile of other issues that you're having to deal with, but your next 2 games, you have Georgia, Missouri, and then also Kentucky at the tail end of those 3-game stretch.
Oh, God.
Not exactly getting better for you. Feels like 2 losses coming up against Georgia and Missouri. record is not looking good. Auburn is in this bunch now, what I feel like with Florida State, Auburn felt like they were going to be on this track this year where, you may not have this great glowing record or anything like that. You may not be making a playoff, but you're going to feel like a program that's on the rise. You're going to feel like a program that is increasingly getting better. Florida State, it was more so about reaffirm what you proved last year, that you can make the playoff, that you are the best team in the ACC. Both teams have flopped, and it has looked disastrous. Quarterback play has been bad. It's just been all around no bueno for Auburn this season.
The worst part about Auburn is it seems like they kind of came into this 2024 season thinking, we can just exist this year and make it to 7-5, 6-6, and then next year we'll push everything next year. And it's just been so disastrous.
I don't know if that's arrogant to believe that you can just Peyton Thorne your way to 8-4.
Yeah.
Or if that's disrespectful to your fan base, knowing that 8-4 is okay. Just praying for 8-4. Let's just get there, and then next year we'll be good. Like, that's what we're at.
And we're not 8-4 because our players are messing up.
Oh, yeah. No, we got this. Auburn's 2-3, right, boys? Mm-hmm. Auburn has outgained their opponents in 4 of their 5 football games.
Pretty good.
They've outgained their opponents in 4 of 5 football games. They have outrushed their opponents in 4 of 5 football games. Here's the problem, though. Auburn has 15 turnovers to just 4.
Ew.
Now you'll say, bro, that's got to be really bad quarterback play, right? I understand Hugh Freeze being a little upset, man. He's obviously got good offenses. They just can't protect the football. This must be a Peyton Thorne problem, right?
Yeah.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Gotta be. Except I got to thinking, Hugh Freeze known for the RPO. That's what Kirby Smart said today. Hugh Freeze been out here working with that RPO since RPOs got introduced to football. And this guy does it better than everybody else. And then I got to thinking to myself, you know what? Football tells me RPOs are hard. RPOs are hard decisions for quarterbacks to be making 15, 20 times a game. That's not easy. We run 7 or 8 RPOs. All right, I'm going to read a defensive end, and then I got to throw off that outside linebacker, and I also got to read safeties and count boxes. And it's not as simple as, okay, they're in cover 3. I've got this 3-beater over here when I'm throwing the football. It's not that easy. RPOs can get a little hairy. Anybody that's ever played a video game will tell you exactly this. It's not that easy. And you can imagine in real life when real bullets start to fly, RPOs can be tough. We can make bad decisions, drastically bad decisions really quickly in the RPO game because it's quick decisions. It's ball out right now. We got to go. Well, what happens if a linebacker gets a little leaky? Right? What happens when we're running the same RPO multiple times and now the linebacker's going to feint me but then back off? So I got to thinking, football brain tells me RPOs probably lead to a good amount of turnovers. So you know what I do when the football brain tells me something.
Got to make sure the stats back it up.
Got to make sure the stats back it up. So what did I do today? I ran down turnover margins for Hugh Freeze over the last, 11 years that this joker been a head coach. And boy, did I find some facts. Did you know that in 11 years as a head football coach, Hugh Freeze has lost or had 20 or more turnovers in 8 of 11 seasons?
Ew.
8 of 11 seasons, this man's offenses have turned the ball over more than 20 times. One of those years was a COVID-shortened season. One of those years was the year he got fired at Ole Miss, and the other year was the very first year at Liberty. The only year in 2019, the only year in 11 seasons as a head football coach where Hugh Freeze's teams won the turnover margin. This guy's football teams have been atrocious at turning the ball over. You know why? Because RPOs lead to turnovers. They're hard, especially when you do them consistently over and over and over again. Hugh Freeze's football teams have years of turnovers of 27 turnovers, 29 turnovers, 25 turnovers, 27 turnovers. This dude's offenses turn the ball over, not his quarterbacks. This dude turns the ball over. And then he's got the nerve to stand up in front of the microphone and blame his damn quarterbacks over and over and over again. You know who's a little bit insane? Hugh Freeze. Hugh Freeze is insane because his teams turn the ball over because his offense turns the ball over.
Yeah, it's never a good thing to throw your quarterback under the bus in any situation. But then when the data suggests that it's not the quarterback play as much as it might be your offensive system and your scheme that's causing this, it's a really, really bad look for you.
Yeah, that's a glaring issue.
Bro, those are damning. Those are absolutely damning. Yes, you're bad this year. You have 15 turnovers through 5 games. You're on pace to turn it over 29, 32 times. That's on pace. That's a little bit worse than what you normally do. But normally you're awful at it. Normally you average like 2.7 turnovers per game through 11 years. This ain't small sample sizes, Jack. This is a long time. It's a decade of football where your quarterbacks, you can't keep them from turning it over. So who's the idiot?
So maybe it's not just because you have Peyton Thorne at quarterback.
No, probably not.
So maybe you're not a 5-star quarterback away from being a national title contender?
I would argue that the 5-star quarterback would probably turn it over at this rate too, because he had a second-round draft pick who turned out to be a pretty damn good NFL football player, or at least a serviceable, winnable player in Malik Willis.
So far, yeah.
And I believe that was the 2020 COVID-shortened season when he went off.
Yes.
It was, yes.
Still had 16 turnovers. Won the turnover margin by 1.
Good God.
Okay, so, again, man, like, I don't think anyone's told him this either, because he ain't got no acceptance of responsibility for his offenses, because he just wants to go out there and throw them damn quarterbacks under the bus. By the way, Bo Wallace called him out on this in that post. It wasn't just about my coach don't care about me, my coach throws people under the bus. It was, look at the numbers. They always throw picks. They always turn the ball over. In fact, the lie detector determined that was indeed the truth.
Tough look.
Ole Miss, tough look.
Really tough.
Tough look. Scrappy bunch, that Kentucky unit, huh?
Yeah.
Bunch of lunch pail guys
Kentucky
over
a
there.
top
Bunch of
25
coaches'
team?
kids. Huh?
Is Kentucky a top 25 team?
Oh,
I don't know about that.
Maybe.
I mean, you'd have to
No,
imagine.
you can't get your doors blown off by South Carolina, lose to Georgia, beat a top 10 team, and then get inside the top 25. You can't be a 2-loss team in the top 25 through 4 weeks. Can't do that.
Top 25 defense? Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Top 15
Definitely.
Yeah,
defense.
top 15 defense as well.
Got good D at Kentucky.
This is but this is one of the things that was kind of concerning and what people had questions about going into Ole Miss, or at least what I had questions about going into the season for Ole Miss, is Lane Kiffin kind of tends to do these things. Lane Kiffin kind of tends to lose games that he shouldn't and lose the big ones when it does matter that you have to win. So it kind of proving the point of you can get all these transfers, you can get all these great football players, you can have your quarterback returning, but your head football coach is your head football coach, and he does what he does. And this was one of those things.
The rare stinker at home, too.
Yeah.
You know?
This really struck me as a coaching issue because I'm sure you watched that game. Ole Miss did not look ready for that game.
Boy, did we. We watched that football game in a parking deck in
did.
Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Sick.
Top roofed it.
Not as sick. But no, just a waste from one. Going back and watching this game, you realize how much Ole Miss did not seem ready for this matchup. It was a noon kick. It was an SEC contest against, an inferior opponent. But Kentucky clearly wanted that more. And I put that on the coach. Like, when your coaching staff cannot get a team ready and fired up for a game. Now, obviously, there are some instances where you do come out a little flat. We've seen that with some of the top 10 teams in this country. But Ole Miss just did not seem motivated in this game.
All right, Kentucky's game plan is very simple.
Yep.
We are going to 3 yards and cloud of dust our way
Limit possessions
into the red zone and pray we can score a touchdown. If we score touchdowns today, we're going to beat you. If we don't, we're going to lose today.
They're also going to hope that you make enough mistakes. That punch out in the red zone,
yeah,
that was massive for them. I don't know if they scored a touchdown off of that. I don't think they did. But the fact that you stopped them from scoring points, limited possessions once again.
Ole Miss had a great crowd too. Look, I've been to that stadium.
Ole Miss had a great.
It doesn't look
crowd.
that intimidating.
It's not.
It's just like one
It's not.
bowl.
It's not. It's one bowl. There's like 63,000 people there. Sound gets out really easily. It's not very loud.
Yeah.
It's not very loud. The only way you can be deafeningly loud in the SEC with less than 90,000 fans is if you're so bad that they allow you to cheat with noisemakers like Mississippi State.
Need more cowbell.
Need more cowbell. That's it. So, yeah,
man.
The home field advantage wasn't all that much. We also found out ESPN be pumping crowd noise like crazy while watching that Miami game.
Yeah,
My
we did.
God.
Dude.
Not enough fans for it to be that
Holy
loud.
shit, not enough. And also, by the way, a little producing tip for you here. If you can tell that the microphones aren't louder than the fans, it's because they've piped the fan noise all the way up, because our microphones are only going to stay here. So when we can't talk over the crowd noise, it's because they've taken that knob and they've bumped it all the way up. When the crowd's loud, you're still going to hear the audio levels of the microphones over those guys. But when they got to peak that audio, you're going to see that happen. But, yeah, not too crazy loud out there. Sir Rolls Right and his bunch, very, very tough and scrappy. found a way to win. And that was the difference, honestly. They had the same exact game plan, executed it to a T. They scored touchdowns against Ole Miss. They kicked field goals against Georgia. End of story.
They did what they tried to do against Georgia, and they succeeded at it.
Yeah.
And they had an insane fourth down conversion. Do you still look at Ole Miss as a contender after this?
You want me to go ahead and kill a dream? All right, let's kill a
I'm
dream. It's
asking.
Monday. Somebody's got to die. It's Monday, so let's kill someone. Texas, Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, Tennessee. You guys are still in national title contention, in my opinion. If you guys win a national title, I'm like, you know what? That makes sense. Last week, we killed Missouri. Seems to be like a good decision. This week, we're killing Ole Miss. Ole Miss, you dead. The reason why? Lane Kiffin's still Lane Kiffin'ing. You told us this before the season. Lane Kiffin going to lose one of these games that he shouldn't, okay? And this was the one. You can't do it. You got 2 big games still to play. Still got to play Georgia. Still believe you got to go to LSU. All right, and Oklahoma's still on the schedule as well. A good scrappy defense that can do this to you. Ole Miss, you dead.
Shoot, you got to go to South Carolina this week, and South Carolina proven to be one of these scrappy bunches as well. So it ain't like you're just coming off of a loss and then like, oh, it's all right. We got a bounce back game. No, you got to go to Columbia, South Carolina, and you got to go play that team.
Really thought Lane was going to be about his business this year.
Maybe.
Dude, he was doing get ready with me's. You should have known
right.
instantly.
You're right,
Instantly.
but that's his steez, man.
Game
That's who
day,
he
get
is.
ready with me's. Come on now. That's not locked in.
So where there's death, there's life, is there not?
Yeah, I ain't giving nobody life this year or this week.
Really?
Nobody's got life. Nobody.
No one?
Nobody's got newfound life. Don't do it.
Nobody?
Don't you do it. Are you about to ask me what I think you're about to ask me? You about to troll right now? Go ahead, do it.
What about Shadur?
What about Shadur? I mean, the Big 12, sneaky chance that the Buffaloes are the Big 12 champ. Check this out.
Someone's got to make the playoffs.
Hold the phone. Hold the phone. The Buffaloes are a real deal now. They got K-State next week after a bye.
Nah.
I'm riding with Avery Johnson.
All right, hold. At Arizona,
You should win that game. But
the rare time. Nah, I'm not gonna say that. Dion, very, and his coaching staff, very, very significant coaching advantage against Arizona, in my opinion, because Buddy from San Jose State be getting laid.
I would say, do we have to say his name now because he did just beat a top 10 team in his first season?
Negative, because I believe Buddy from San Jose State was going to handle business against K-State. He didn't. So, no. We're not giving nobody credit. So, there. Cincy at home.
Not great.
At Texas Tech.
Should win that game.
Utah at home.
They'll lose that game.
Probably. At Kansas.
God, I hope Kansas wins that
Oklahoma
game.
State.
The Jayhawks are a train
I'm just
wreck.
saying. They're not, doable.
They don't have a Big 12 loss either.
No, they don't.
Good
Man.
Lord.
I don't know if the media world is ready for Colorado in the playoff. Just no shot.
Travis Hunter doing his best Cam Newton impression right
ESPN
now.
would have to rehire Robert Griffin.
The media world is ready for it because they see dollar signs. I don't know if the fans are ready for that.
Boy, that Utah versus Arizona game was ugly, though.
Disgusting.
So was that K-State Oklahoma State game.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than watching the absolute fireworks show that was the fourth quarter of Georgia-Alabama and then saying, all right, well, it's time to turn our attention to Arizona versus Utah to
Yeah,
close the night out.
It wasn't great for us getting in the truck to drive home after the Georgia-Alabama game and be like, oh, we still got football. Nah, we don't got football. This is some bad football.
Yeah, Oregon was handling UCLA.
Yeah.
Utah was Iowan.
Mm-hmm.
You had a great point. They are Iowa.
They're Iowa
They're
with better
Iowa.
jerseys.
They're Iowa with sicker uniforms.
Yeah, that's it. Plain and simple. No offense, but hey, that defense.
Better PR agent. Coach gives cooler quotes.
For sure.
And there's no nepotism on the roster, despite the fact that there is one of those things with the defensive coordinator that we don't have to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not cool.
Simply Googleable there. But, yeah, the Big 12. The Big 12 might remove automatic top 4 bids right here, right?
It's sure making that case for the SEC and the Big Ten to say, hey, we want 4 bids. We want 4 automatic bids. And it's like, look at what Big 12's doing right now. You sure you want more of those teams in, or would you like more of us?
I mean, the longer this season goes on, we don't all really have faith in Miami as much as we do now, do we?
I got takes on that.
Well,
we'll get to that in a
my
second.
point is we're staring down at college football where the only teams worth a shit are in the Big Ten and the SEC. Like last year, you at least had the Florida States. Last year, you at least, maybe could make an argument that, well, Texas was in the Big 12 last year. This year, there's nothing. It's the Big 10 and the SEC.
I had quite a bit to do today, so I didn't read like I'm supposed to because I read so y'all don't have to. But apparently there's discussions about the SEC and the Big 10 merging schedules or agreeing to do some non-conference type of agreements, which I think also has stipulations where they're going to increase their automatic bids.
Yes.
Don't
Checks
quote
out.
me on that.
In 2026, when the contract is up, they want they want 4 automatic bids from those 2 conferences.
I mean, after watching this year, like, make an argument that they don't deserve it.
I can make an argument that the Big 10 doesn't have 4 of the top 8 teams.
That's
I can
fine.
easily make that.
Yeah.
I can argue that the SEC has 6 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the SEC might be holding a little water for the Big 10 in this situation.
Carrying, for sure.
Carrying, yeah, better way to put that. But yeah, the Big 12, a scrambled mess right now, as we probably expected it to be going into this season. Arkansas and Texas A&M. Boy, these 2 teams, oddly similar in the sense that they're not bad SEC teams, but they're not good SEC
Perfect
teams.
mid-tiers.
Yeah,
They're
perfect 8-4 SEC programs.
They are
7-5.
They are very talented teams that are exceptionally good at shooting themselves in the foot and doing anything they can to let the other team win a game.
It's just they're both of them are 2 teams where, like, if you're one of the upper tier programs heading into that matchup against Arkansas or Texas A&M, you're still feeling confident that you're going to win, but there's also a part of you where, like, they might keep it close. They might be able to turn this into a football game because they don't suck. They're not Vanderbilt or Mississippi State or Auburn right now, but they also aren't one of the better football programs.
The foundation of very good football teams are there. You know, strong coaching staff somewhat. It's just everything around it's not really up to par.
Arkansas would be a wagon right about now if they could keep Taylor Green from making catastrophic mistakes.
Yes, if they could keep Taylor Green
But
from
then again, if you tell him to stop, he probably stops making some of the plays that he makes when he's doing the hospital ball stuff.
Yeah, he almost feels like one of those players where you just got to say, just go play ball.
Just go.
Just go.
You can't put a governor
Let's
on
go
that
see what
type of
happens.
player.
And I feel like that's kind of the team that Arkansas needs to be at some points. Like, they just need to be this free roam offense. Let's go see what Taylor Green can make happen on offense. Like, maybe he just does some crazy shit on this play and we get a touchdown. That's kind of what it feels like, and it feels like that's when their best version of themselves.
Has Arkansas been the most pleasant surprise in this conference this year?
Vanderbilt.
You think so?
Yeah.
I expect Vandy to play a couple teams scrappy though every year.
Yeah, but you didn't expect.
And let's hold off on them. Are we sure? We sure it's going to continue?
Are we sure Arkansas is going to continue?
No. But I feel like Taylor Green being really, really good and a playmaker is more consistent than Vandy's going to 3 yards in a cloud of dust their way to a perfect execution, taking Missouri to OT.
I mean, yeah, but
either way, we're going Arkansas and Vandy.
two of the biggest surprises for sure.
And what are some other? Are there any other pleasantly surprisingly good?
South Carolina.
South
They're
Carolina.
definitely in that conversation.
They've got one of the more ferocious D lines in the country.
I think Alabama fans feel really, really good right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Through
people
5 weeks.
spent the whole offseason telling you that first year Kalen DeBoer, SEC, like, you ain't no more Saban, like, you ain't going to be able to do it.
But is it a surprise? Like, are we that surprised? Okay, maybe it's a surprise that they've played this well, but we all thought Alabama was going to be in the thick of it. No one thought they'd be eliminated come October.
I'm surprised to see Jalen Milroe be what I'm considering the best and most undefensible player in college football.
That's fine, but I would say that's more of a Jalen Milroe pleasant surprise than it is the entire Alabama team. Like, there's still a couple of places on this area where you look at it, it's like, could be better.
All right, before we get into what the hell happened at the end of that Miami-Virginia Tech game, I want you to clarify a take. Because we were watching your Twitter feed on Friday night when we were driving to Tuscaloosa.
I peeped it.
Yeah, we peeped game.
Quote. Didn't like it, though, did you?
What's your handle, by the way?
Kirby24K.
Kirby _24K, right?
Correct.
At Kirby _24K if you want to follow this artist on Twitter.
Thanks, man.
So you tweeted out, the more I watch this Miami-Virginia Tech game, the more I realize Cam Ward is not an NFL quarterback.
Correct.
Expound.
So watching that game, you realize very quickly that it's half-field reads.
Mm-hmm.
2, the way he plays it is almost lazy.
Nonchalant.
It's fun, though.
It's fun
It's so fun.
sure.
So
it's fun to
fun.
watch, and he makes exciting
He
plays.
got his ass in trouble.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things, and a lot of the scrambles, and a lot of the, oh my God, how did he do that plays? That shit's not flying in the NFL. Like Jalen Milroe, you can at least fathom him getting the edge on a DB. You can at least fathom him making a nice sidestep on a defensive lineman who's got a free run. I can't see Cam Ward outrunning D linemen, D edges, circling around for another 15-yard gain like he was doing in that game. And by the way, deep ball accuracy, not that great. Had a couple of balls that were good, but overall, it was very much like, wow, that was underthrown. Oh, that was 5 yards off target. So that's my Cam Ward take.
I'm with you in this extent. Playing nonchalant on Sundays doesn't work. We're watching that with Caleb Williams right now.
Mm-hmm.
However, that dude has some of the most unique and special spatial awareness I've ever seen in my life.
Yes, his pocket mobility
ever seen
good.
in my life. Pocket mobility, but even when he's out in the open grass, he knows when people are behind him. He knows when people are around him. He can feel them. He also knows where his teammates are at all times. It's why he can do some of this late pitch stuff that he's doing. The spatial awareness and the just raw traits tell me he is going to be an NFL player, and that's okay. The rest of the stuff certainly has to get cleaned up. And by the way, I was with you in that car ride. I told you, I guarantee you Virginia Tech's defensive coordinator staff all week was like, hey, this guy thinks he's playing in a video game. This guy thinks he can go out here and be nonchalant. This guy doesn't give a shit about y'all. He doesn't think shit. He doesn't think you're anything. He thinks he can walk through the pocket. He thinks he can be nonchalant with the football. We're going to hunt his ass. We're going to turn him over. And that's exactly what happened in that football game. And then he crawled that offense and that football team back into it.
Yeah, the play where he's getting sacked and he just chest passes it to his running back.
Yeah.
Does it go for a touchdown or does it just go for
the tight end, and it goes down to the 2 they score on the next play.
I was like, that's why you have Cam Ward, and that's why Miami is going to be the best team in the ACC, I think, this season, because he makes stuff like that happen. And I agree, like what he's doing now at Miami, you can't replicate that in the NFL because NFL football players don't allow you to replicate that. But it's fun to watch. Yeah. I'm glad that there is a fun team to watch in the ACC right now. But yeah, I agree with the take. We thought it was interesting. I was like, ooh, a take from Kirby. I like it.
Yeah, I didn't
firing him off.
I didn't want to make that seem like I don't think Cam Ward's not an exciting football player, or that he's not a good college quarterback. But watching the stuff he does and the reasons he has success on Saturdays is not going to translate to Sundays at all.
Fair. All right, now let's talk about
put me on the spot with that one. I'd remember that.
The ACC office definitely got on the phone
this was
in this
so
one, right?
much bullshit, dude. Oh,
I have no idea how on earth, A, you call that a touchdown, but B, once it's called a touchdown on the field, there is no video evidence to overturn that play. Zero.
Indisputable video evidence is what is required to overturn a call on the field. It's unfortunate. Now, was it a touchdown? Maybe not. It's unfortunate that the call was that on the field for you, Miami. Sorry about that. That's how it goes sometimes. Refs are humans. It does not take 6 minutes to find indisputable video evidence. Almost any time there's a call of return, it's, oh, his knee was down, there it is. Oh, the ball moved. Oh, they touched that. Or sometimes you have to watch and see, does he have both feet in? Does he maintain possession to the catch? This was not that instance. It should not have taken 6 minutes for you to overturn that.
I kind of thought it was actually a catch. I thought it was a legitimate catch, to be honest. I thought that.
I thought his butt hit the ground before
he caught the ball, came to the ground, and then about a full second after coming to the ground, the Miami player scooped it out of his hands. I thought it was a clean catch.
What happened here was the ACC saw what happened last season where the playoff essentially disrespected him, said, we don't think you're worth the shit. You're 13-0 conference champions, not making it in because they don't have a quarterback. Now they have a team that is pretty much their only national title contender, who is a Heisman front runner, and they were on the ropes. They had to make a save to save their ass, save their team's ass, and they're going to burn for it.
Boy, Dabo Swinney would like a word.
Oh, my God. I hope every ACC team loses every game from here on out. Disgusting.
That's a little hot. Let's stay in the ACC. Florida State's got a new quarterback. Okay, they finally pulled DJU. Now,
did they pull DJU?
They pulled DJU, or did DJU pull himself? Reports are he's got a hand injury. Also doubled down and let everybody know that he was playing the first 4 games hurt. Give me the analysis on this, and then I'm putting the tinfoil hat on.
This is very much to me, and it's kind of sad because it kind of strikes me as someone saying, hey, I was hurt. This is the reason I wasn't doing very well, and hoping that you get that extra year of eligibility, trying to get a medical red shirt so that you can play at another school next year. Because, I mean, we have to. It's obvious by now that the DJU experiment at Florida State has been a catastrophic failure.
This ain't gonna be the last one.
No,
This is gonna happen more often. And what am I talking about? This is what I'm talking about. He played his freshman year in 2020. That doesn't count. 2021, 2022, 2023. This would be 2024. This would be fourth and final, okay, for this guy. But NCAA, my freshman year of college, allowed everybody, hey, you get 4 games. You play up to 4 games, and then the red shirt's gone. Guess who hasn't applied for a traditional red shirt before? DJU. Guess who will be on a college football team next year as a 6th-year senior? DJU. There's no doubt about this. This is what's happening. This guy is going to get a red shirt. They will not play him the rest of the year, or if his agent's smart, they will make sure they do not play him the rest of the year, and then he will extend his football career by 1 additional year unless he decides that he's going to make the right decision and move to tight end and maybe get on an NFL practice squad. But this is what this is. This is going to continue to be this, I think. That's my prediction moving forward. We're going to see more of these. We're heading into Game 5 for a lot of college football programs. I don't think this is the last one. I think we're going to see more of these this week of so-and-so's got an injury electing for a season-ending surgery because, by the way, nowadays, if I've got some minor knee swelling, I can probably go get that thing scoped, right? If I got anything ailing me at all, I could probably get out the rest of the year if I really wanted to, if I really needed to. And I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm just saying that's what's happening.
What do you think is going to be more common pre-regulation, where you got all the red splits and all those things? You're going to have more players saying, oh, I'm not getting the NIL package I was promised. I'm going to sit out for the rest of the season, take my red shirt. Or, hey, I've got an injury. I'm going to just go ahead and take my medical red shirt. What do you think you're going to see more of in the coming years before regulation fixes all that?
I think the second one is way, way easier from a PR standpoint. Way easier. If Bear Alexander would have had an injury right now, people aren't killing Tony Jones on social media.
Right.
Well, they probably are because Tony brings it on himself. But I think the narrative on this changes when this is the news. DJU's hurt, probably done the rest of the year.
Right.
But so for a medical red shirt,
It's not a medical. He doesn't need the medical. He can get the traditional this year with just the 4.
He's played 5 games.
They've played 5 already?
Yeah, they're 1-4.
Oh, well, this take is gone. He can't. I don't know if he can apply for the medical. I think there's certain percentage of amount of games.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was different than like if it was a 4-game threshold still or whatnot. But yeah, they're 1-4. He's played 5.
I delivered this take in pre-show, and you didn't tell me they were 1-4.
I keep forgetting that they played week 0. They played more games, but the whole time I was kind of like, how does he have more eligibility? Because I felt like there was no way. But sorry, I just wanted to get to a gotcha moment.
Thank you.
You're
just
welcome.
setting the boy up.
Yeah,
that's all.
let you cook for a little bit.
Just setting the homie up.
Smack.
Who knows, though? I mean,
we are going to see more of this, I think,
Hey.
of situational selective opt-outs.
Cam McCormick can play 9 years. Why can't DJU? He found a way.
Yeah.
and honestly, like, there's also a reality where they came in and said, hey, listen, it's probably best for the outlook of your career and for everything else to just shut it down right now because we're going to bench you, and we know this is an NFL draft year for you, so it's probably better to save face and say the first 5 games of the season were due to injury and all that and not because you were playing bad. I don't know, dude. It's just – it almost makes you sad at this point for him.
Should I kill another narrative right quick?
Let's hear it.
All right, let's go to the board. Sorry, I should have told you that so you could spin cameras.
We can do that.
So go ahead and spin cameras and let's go to the board.
I can get you walking to the board in time.
All right. Saw a bunch of people on social media doing the, man, Georgia's edge contained sure is shit. Man, why can't we set the edge? Why can't we maintain the edge? Alabama rushed for 270 yards off tackle. What the hell are we doing? Why can't we control the edge? Again, way easier as a fan to sit there and say, man, our guys suck. We're not good enough. Than it is to look at the other sideline and go, hey, man, that's a really good job by you guys. Y'all are executing really well. All right, here we go. So off rip, I'm going to tell you right now, based off of alignment, we're not going to play this clip. We're just going to show you this. I have to tell the TV rights folks that. Okay. Right off jump, they already shorten your edge. What do I mean by that? Okay. Well, Georgia's defense has nobody out here. All right, that is green grass and available based off formation. They have 3 wide receivers out here and they are in what we showed you all week last week during film study as nub, right? They have a tight end attached that is naked over there by himself. So the edge is already shortened. Now, upon the snap, this is a touchdown on 4th and 1, by the way, that Milroe ran for. On the snap, they're going to block down everybody, all right? They're going to lead ISO, the running back, over there on the one defender. And now, guess who's in the flat one-on-one with Jalen Milroe? Malachi Starks. Guess who makes Malachi Starks miss and runs for 30 yards and a touchdown on 4th and 1? Jalen Milroe. All right, so is this schematics? No. I would argue that they had the +1 defender there. All right, so what is this? This is their guy beating your guy. And sometimes we can be okay with that. Now, it's not great. We'd like this guy to get tackled. In fact, Wisconsin's safety got him on the ground on this same exact play multiple times. Malachi didn't. Why'd the edge get collapsed? Why'd the edge get attacked? Well, they're strategically doing that. They're schematically attempting to make you weak and vulnerable on that edge based off how their offense works. Now, Kirby, you asked me something before the show when I told you I was going to do this that really bugged you. What was it?
Why were they not bumping with pre-snap motion?
Why did they not bump with pre-snap motion? And what Kirby's talking about is pre-snap, the running back was actually over here and the tight end was over here. They bumped and rolled the tight end attached, and then they rolled the running back over here. And Georgia's alignment didn't change much. All they did really was take the safety and roll him out over here. All right? I'm with you. And I think towards the second half, they started to do this. And we'll pay attention really, really closely to how they bumped alignment in the second half of this football game when they started creating some of these, issues, if you will, for Alabama's offense and actually got them off the field. But with regards to the edge contain, guys, you won't find a football team in college football that plays Alabama this year that has, quote, good edge contain. It just doesn't happen. They're attacking you there by formation and by design. And, by the way, they can only do so because their quarterback is who their quarterback is, right? Why don't we see this in other facets? Well, other teams aren't really made comfortable running their quarterback 14, 15 times a game because he might get hurt. That guy doesn't, all right? That guy does not. He's a robot,
a rarity.
I guess. I don't know what he is, but he's the most undefendable football player in college football. And I don't think there's – maybe Ryan Williams is the only other one. Who's more undefendable right now than what they got going on?
Ashton Genty.
That's a decent one because he's out here giving 26 totes for 279.
Everybody knows who's it's going to.
And everybody knows. You're 100% right.
He's still running for
there.
200 plus.
There's one thing we didn't talk about on our Week 5.
What's that?
It's kind of unfortunate because I know it's going to really bother you because you killed him already, but it's looking more and more like Notre Dame's going to be a playoff team.
Not for me. Not for me. I will boycott. Boycott, TC! I will boycott.
Get ready because, top 15 win. Louisville's a respected team. Beat one of the better teams in the ACC. 11-1 is looking right down the barrel at them.
Louisville, you couldn't do it for us.
Someone else will.
USC.
Someone else will.
Oh, man, I'm relying on Lincoln Riley.
What if they don't, though?
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear about how they fixed all their problems and they fixed all their woes.
The problem for Notre Dame right now is that even if you go 11-1, you still feel like you're in the bubble. You don't. That's not. You going 11-1 is not. All right, we went out, stamped, approved. We're in the college football playoff. Whereas Georgia's situation right now, hey, we went out, we go 11-1. We're in the college football playoff, regardless of regardless of anything else that happens in college football right now. If we went out, then we're going to make the college football playoff. Notre Dame does not have that. I don't know the word I'm looking for right now. That privilege, whatever. They don't have that. Benefit of the doubt. They don't have that.
They don't. But if you're the problem is there's gonna not be enough space for 11. Think about it. There's 7 slots open after your 5 pre-bids. We all know that. There's not going to be 7 teams that are better than that can justify leaving out an 11-1 team, especially when that 11-1 team has beaten a top 15 Louisville and what we would assume would be a top 25 USC by the time they play. So it's unfortunate, but
guys, they didn't even fall out of the. I just looked. They didn't even look out. They didn't even fall out of the top 15 after the loss to Northern Illinois.
Exactly. It's bad, dude. Get ready. Get ready for a playoff Notre Dame team that just we all know is going to be.
Did Ole Miss fall further out of the rankings than Notre Dame did?
I think Ole Miss is 12 right now.
Yeah.
Ole Miss is 12. They dropped 6 spots.
How far did Notre Dame drop?
Notre Dame dropped
I
like
would have to
8,
look it up.
I believe.
Yeah, 8.
Okay.
So,
Boy, that would have been interesting.
they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt.
They don't, but they're going to get it.
What if, like, so you're telling me a 10-2 SEC team's getting nixed because of an 11-1 Notre Dame with a loss to Northern Illinois? If that's the situation.
How many 10-2 SEC teams are there, though?
It doesn't matter. Let's say it comes down to a 10-2 Ole Miss, their losses to Kentucky and Georgia.
Ole Miss gets in.
Notre Dame goes home.
Notre Dame will go home.
All right, 10-2 Missouri. Close win against Vandy. They lose to Alabama and they lose to Oklahoma.
Yeah, Missouri's going home. They don't have enough wins for that. Like, there's no strong win on that.
I could agree with that. I think an 11-1 Notre Dame would get in over a 10-2 Missouri in that situation.
I just don't like it.
I don't either.
Yeah,
That's why I wanted to bring it up, because it's not a.
It don't feel any better than an undefeated Big 12 team. If someone went undefeated in that conference, they got in. It doesn't feel any better, in my opinion.
Well, I don't think it's. I think I would take a Notre Dame team right now over whoever's taken out of the Big 12.
For real.
Big 12 is boo-boo.
Did you watch that USC-Wisconsin game, by the way?
I did not. I saw somebody. Wasn't Wisconsin up big there for a minute?
Wisconsin was up very big, and then USC basically just took over the game in the second half. It was very interesting to watch.
Showed up with a defense in the second half?
Pretty much, yeah. I think they realized, you can't really throw the ball.
Yeah.
We're just going to stop the run and kind of play man on the outsides and see if that works.
Very rare a team that, hires a defensive-minded coach and then decides to be an air raid offense, can't throw the football, which is what's going on with Wisconsin.
It sounds
right now.
fun.
It does not. Doesn't sound fun at all.
Well,
what are you giggling about over there?
No, about you. What you were saying about Wisconsin. I'm just saying, like, you're a defensive-minded head coach, but you tell recruits, hey, we're air raid. We throw the football.
Yeah.
Ooh, you throw the football. Maybe I'll go play for Wisconsin. And then you go watch a game on Saturday.
Oh, your defense is on the field for 3/4 of the football game. Fun. I'm going to play 85 snaps today because our offense is 3 and out in 18 seconds of game time. That's awesome.
Is Luke Fickell cooked?
I think Luke Fickell – I wish I would have backed off of the – do you remember what my Luke Fickell takes were? Boy,
I remember you were very high on him.
I had strong ones. At one point, I said Luke Fickell was such a good football coach that he could win the Big Ten West with a D2 team.
I mean, that's a pretty fun take.
It's a pretty funny take.
It's a dog shit division.
Now, those takes were made before I realized that, like I said, a defensive-minded football coach was going to become an air raid guy. It's just not – it's a very weird decision. And like you said, it might cost him this job. I don't think he's cooked, but it doesn't look good. Doesn't look like what Wisconsin fans thought they were signing up for.
No.
I do just want to remind everybody that there's still a dark horse in this Heisman race that nobody's talking about still.
My boy Mateer?
He took the L this weekend. Tough L. Boise State. Happens to everybody, you know. Ashton Genty, he do everybody up, all right? Mateer, 327, 2 tuds.
How about them rushing yards?
Rushing yards, he didn't even need them. 28 rushing yards. Still put up over 300 yards
Must
passing.
have took hella big sacks in that football game.
He must have.
To only have 28 rushing yards on what?
Says
12
no,
attempts?
Oh, never mind. Never mind. I thought it said
How many
that.
attempts do you have? 12?
26 of 37.
No, I'm talking about rushing.
Oh, attempts? Yeah, he had 20 attempts.
Yeah, that boy got sacked
got
hella
sacked.
times.
O-line did him no favors.
No favors.
Still threw for 300 plus.
My boy Mateer putting the wagon on his back.
Put that bread on him, I'm telling you.
No chance.
No chance.
No
But
chance.
it
It's unfortunate.
might happen. I'm going to keep pitching for it.
Is Jalen Milroe a Heisman favorite now?
Yeah.
I think Travis Hunter still is.
Travis Hunter's still the favorite and should be.
Yeah.
Think so?
You do what he does
Buddy,
on
they
a college
beat the
football
shit
field.
out of UCF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad.
And it has a lot of it has to do with him.
Yeah.
He's doing a
I
lot
don't
of
know. You
things for
complete
them.
80% of your passes against Georgia's defense, and you threw 30 of them, and you have another 100 rushing yards to it.
Oh, sure.
I'm giving him best odds right now.
It's going to be a stat thing, though. He's not going to – his stats are always going to lie to me about how good of a football player he was. Jalen. I'm gonna think Jalen Milroe is one of the better – I said it yesterday, and I'll stand by it. He's the closest thing we've seen to Cam Newton.
You said it like 20 minutes ago before we went on air.
Closest thing we've seen to Cam Newton in this conference.
I believe I said that on Thursday.
In 10 years. It took that long.
So here's something that we can kind of –
And he's still not Cam.
Here's something that's kind of interesting. We came into this season thinking Kalen DeBoer's, all right, you got to kind of suffer along for the Jalen Milroe experience because, he doesn't fit into the offense that you want to run. The offense that Alabama's running now is pretty much something only you can do with a guy like Jalen Milroe.
Mm-hmm.
So is it more that you're setting yourself up for failure
No.
later, or is he just going to adjust his offense accordingly?
I think that's the takeaway for me, that this guy not only was putting up historic numbers with a processor and a great pocket passer with Michael Penix, but he also turned around and took Jalen Milroe and made him the most undefensible human in college football right now.
Because, by the way, Michael Penix wasn't a world beater at Indiana.
No.
Like, he beat Penn State in 2020, very exciting game. After that, he was kind of He had some injury issues, but he wasn't very exciting before he got to Washington, Kalen DeBoer. So,
And 1870 off-road makes a good point. Jalen got a better team around him than Cam did, 100%. But in the sense that everything that Alabama's offense does right now is predicated off of number 4. And the defense on the other side of the football is holding their breath for 4 quarters because they don't know what he's going to do. That being the most not only unpredictable but therefore undefensible human being, that right there, that combination is the first I've seen since Cam.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think there's another false narrative we should have brought up.
What's that?
We need to recruit more dual-threat quarterbacks after Saturday's game. And I say that because –
You're talking about from a Georgia standpoint.
Yeah, and I say that because go find another Jalen Milroe because that's what you're wanting. That's what you watch Jalen Milroe play on Saturday, and you want Jalen Milroe on – you want UJ to go find a Jalen Milroe. Go try and find one. You can't. You are not finding another replication of Jalen Milroe. And then also another point that I would make, name me the last true dual-threat quarterback to win a national championship.
Cam?
Maybe Deshaun. Maybe that's what you argue.
Deshaun, I don't think Deshaun ever had over 500 yards of rushing in a season.
So Jalen Milroe might become the first one since Cam Newton to win a national title. True dual-threat quarterback to win a national title.
You look like you're racking your brain over there.
I'm trying to think.
Blake Sims didn't win the title, did he?
Maybe one of the Ohio State quarterbacks.
But Blake Sims got carried by Derrick Henry.
Correct. No, the Ohio State. I wouldn't call
Cardell Jones.
Yeah, I wouldn't call Cardell Jones a dual threat. I'll call Cardell Jones a tank.
Yeah.
That had
Jalen
a
Hurts
chooch
almost.
attached to his
Jalen Hurts
shoulder.
almost did it.
Jalen Hurts almost did it.
Almost.
You could technically say Jalen Hurts won it for Bama. I mean, he started 14 and a half of those 15 games. Now, he did take Tua in the second half, saving him to win it, but he was there. He got that Bama team there.
Okay, yeah. So even if you count Jalen Hurts, that's 2 since 2010.
8 years ago, yeah. So.
It's a good take.
Good God, it's 2017, 8 years ago.
It's been that long.
Yeah, man.
Been that long. All right, we got a whole nother hour coming up right now, and it is indeed our local hour. We'll see you in a second.
Welcome into Talk the Dog, the show where we find a bone to pick and a take to give. These are not hot takes. These is dog takes. Can I talk that dog?
What's up? You really like that?
Let's shut up and grind some tape.
Welcome back in. We have a whole nother hour. I want to start with a correction. Chat fixed me real quick on Deshaun Watson. Apparently he has a year with 1,100 yards rushing. That would classify him as indeed a dual threat, and that would be the last one to win. So that would have been 2014? 16. It's been a while.
He didn't do that against the Raiders on Sunday, though.
You had to make that joke twice.
Well, one off air,
You made
one
that
on
joke
air.
off air from the pisser, and you had to double down right now on air.
I had
'cause
to
it
let
was
the people
so
hear.
good.
The people here. It's not a joke. It's a
Opening
fact.
Talk That Dog with Raiders talk is crazy.
Crazy work.
Opening Talk That Dog with Deshaun Watson talk.
I want to give a
just as
quick
crazy.
shout out to our friends over at BetUS to start this local hour. I want to ask you guys to go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. If you're looking for a new book this season, BetUS is indeed the answer. 150% sign up bonus on your first deposit and 125% on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000 only using promo code YouTube150. Head over to BetUS today. Promo code YouTube150, 125% deposit match, 150% deposit match on your first one, 125% on your second, 2, and third one. Good Lord, what an ad read. Shout out to BetUS. Shout out to you guys. Thumbs up, like, subscribe, rate, review. all that good stuff. Boys, crossed over 29,000 subscribers today. We are on our way to 30,000, and then the ceiling is –
Let's go.
Can't even see it. Can't even see what it looks like. So, yeah, we're climbing. All thanks to you guys for being here, okay? Great show to be here. Got a great one for you. All right. Where do we want to start this local hour with? Continue to talk about this Georgia-Bama football game, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the pressing topic for sure.
Absolutely. Where do we want to start?
There's so many places you can go in this game that it's weird because it is a tale of two halves. What would you say is the one play if you're a Georgia fan, if you're a Georgia player, you're Kirby Smart, you could look back and say that's the one play, or if we can change the outcome of that, this game might end differently? Because there's a handful of them, I think.
I would go first and foremost with the first play of the football game offensively that mattered, and it was the drop from Arian Smith. You got a winner called up. You got a one-on-one shot. Quarterback drops a damn dime in the bucket. Whether it's a touchdown, I don't know. But if it's caught and he's tackled inside the 20, I think it's a totally different football game. Just to start that football game. I think Georgia has momentum on the road to start. I feel like the confidence is at an all-time high. I think Arian Smith plays that next snap just a little bit differently, okay? Because the next offensive possession, Georgia gives up a turnover because Arian Smith has a bust on a route. And I'm not saying that's because he dropped that ball. I'm just saying that if he catches that football and starts the game with a 60-yard reception, maybe we have a little bit different football player the next possession.
That was mine. The pick on when you're down 14-0, immediately give them the ball back, give them the opportunity to go 21. 14-0 is kind of like, all right, we've been here before. It's a long game. Let's kind of get settled in here. 21-0 feels a lot longer than that.
We had a super chat earlier that I meant to hit during the local hour that has now disappeared on me. If you can run up and find that one for me over there. I can't find it on my YouTube comments. Maybe you can find it over there on OBS. What you went with the pick on Arian busting a route right there?
Yeah, because I feel like that really put the momentum over the edge, and it also set them up for 21-0. I'm not saying that drive results in a touchdown for Georgia. I'm not saying that you don't end up punting there or whatever, but giving them that much momentum and the opportunity for such a short field to go up to 21-0 so quickly, I think that really puts you in a devastating spot for the game.
What do you got, Jonathan? What was the one play you would change?
I think I would have changed the last interception. I think not even necessarily changing it to a touchdown or changing it into a completion or whatnot. You could even change it into an incomplete pass. I think that just changing that into an opportunity to either tie or even give Georgia the opportunity to go for two. You know, you and I kind of had that conversation after the game. Would you have gone for two? Would you take in the PAT? I myself was saying I think you just go for two, try and get out of there. You either get the dub or you go home trying. But then I kind of countered myself by saying you kind of already emptied your 2-point conversion bag and you already had missed a few as well. So then maybe you even do go into overtime. But the momentum still at that point, even if you tie it up, still feels like momentum's in Alabama's favor.
Oh, buddy, the last thing I'm doing is getting into a who can score inside the 20 off with Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
Ain't doing that. Hell no. If you score right there, you go for two. You got a better chance of winning that one than winning a 2-point, basically a 2-point off, which is, in my opinion, that's what overtime rules are. It's like,
that's what they are now. I mean, that's what they turn into after the second overtime.
Who's the best in the red zone? Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, Bama's pretty damn good in the red zone.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be trying to get into a red zone off with an offense that's got a dual threat quarterback in Milroe, and that is the most kind of like do or die thing with Bama's offense when you're defending them. If you let them get past midfield, they're getting points. Period.
For sure.
It's whether or not they're scoring touchdowns because the moment they get into the green zone, they're deploying Jalen Milroe's legs, and now you got to play 11 on 11. When everybody else in college football gets to play 10 on 11, they get to even the count every single time. It's why they're so efficient once they get past that. But if they don't get an explosive into the green zone, they kind of stall out offensively.
This very much – it was such a weird game to watch because as a Georgia fan, I'll be honest, I emotionally checked out before halftime. I was like, all right, this game is over. To watch them come back like that, it's very weird, not only because you never see it happen.
Bama took their foot off the gas.
Well, that's what the narrative is.
Coaches were trying to lose.
But
Kalen DeBoer felt bad for Kirby.
That's what it was. He wanted to keep it close.
Got to let this guy get back in. We want to see him another time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And we talked about this kind of last week on the show where in no world is a loss good for you necessarily, but was this kind of the best case scenario for a loss?
I did say that I think the game played out about as perfectly as you could in a loss situation for Georgia, because you had to take deep shots. You had to force the ball down the field, and that was something that fans were starting to hyper-focus on. That's what people were wanting from Carson Beck. That's what we said that we needed to see Carson Beck do, and Alabama forced your hand into doing that. You had to force the ball down the field. Carson Beck had to start taking deep shots, and people keep saying that Georgia found an identity on offense. I don't know that you found an identity on offense in the second half because, as you mentioned, you were going for it on fourth down a bunch. You had to. So I don't know if you found an identity, but I think you found a rhythm. I think you found some confidence, perhaps. I think that offense walked away being able to have some confidence, and that team overall, that you could crawl out of a situation like that. You could be down 28-0, and your team has to fight back to get into that, take a lead at some point, and make it a football game again. So I think how it played out, the defense ended up making some big plays. The offense stepped up when they needed to. I think as a collective unit, a loss went about as good as you possibly could have asked for, I guess.
Oh, we went from the season's over, it's dead, this team's terrible,
geez.
bench Carson, to Bama took their foot off the gas. Like that. Just like that.
How confident? Who's more confident coming out of this game?
I want to address something else before we do this. You did the fourth quarter could be the best thing. Did this provide confidence? Had to play without a governor, all that stuff. Carson still had 2 very catastrophic turnovers while playing this style of football, which is the exact reason he does not play this style of football. This guy is very cautious by nature. He does not, or at least play style, he does not want to play without risk unless forced to. The reason being, he doesn't like turning the ball over, despite the fact that he did it 4 times on Saturday. He doesn't like that. All right, he likes to play conservative. And yes, it's great that Georgia moved the ball in the second half with him playing with this risk-averse style of football, or this risky style of football, and maybe we can start games with desperation. No. The reason he plays like this is so he doesn't turn the ball over, and when he doesn't play with any type of avoidance of risk, turnovers happen.
Okay, well, he had 2 or 3 should have been turnovers in the first half as well when he wasn't, back against the wall. All right, I got to sling it. I mean, we talked about they had a pick 6 in the red zone there. Like that was a first half play where it was like he's not necessarily playing out of whack. The fumble, it is what it is. Sometimes they get a good paw on it while you're scrambling. I get that. And we all talk about it. The last interception of the game, like, are we sure that is 1,000% because Carson Beck was playing at risk, or because, maybe necessarily something else happened there? So, this idea that it's only because, we can't say this is too good for Carson. I'll say this. The fourth quarter of Carson Beck, that version is something that you have not seen from him in the 5 years he's been there and the 17 starts he had prior to that. So, I mean, there was a fire that was lit under him that I think is going to be very, very beneficial. And I would not be surprised, and I would go ahead and make this take. The Carson Beck you see from here on out is a completely different version of him, because he has now seen that when you do play without having, this governor of, don't turn the ball over, there's too much to lose in this game, when, hey, we can just go out and throw it. I understand that there is some sort of caveat because, hey, they really did have to do this, and they were going for it on fourth down every time, so the offensive stats look a little inflated. But from a confidence standpoint, Carson Beck grew up in this game, I believe.
I also think, too, a good takeaway, or something that I took note of, is when during Georgia's last possession, I immediately started taking note of who the personnel was on offense, because that means that's who you as a team think is your best options on offense.
It's no different than the closing 5 in a hoops game.
Yeah, absolutely. You're putting your best players on the field right now, your best playmakers. And I think that it should be noted that Colby Young was in on that drive, and Dylan Bell was on there, Dom Lovett, and then also some Arian Smith. So I think that that's your wide receiver group, and I say that, and I think that's confirming for Georgia fans moving forward, because a question that was kind of going into this game is Colby Young's role starting to emerge a bit more? Is he starting to become a bigger role at X, and therefore you can put Dylan Bell at some other spots? I think you kind of saw that play in and come to be a factor in that football game when Colby Young started being called upon more.
I think he busted. You mentioned both teams, or who should be more confident.
Who comes out? Who do you think came out of this game, like walking off the field? Obviously, all the dust settles on this. Who's more confident coming out of this game? Because on one hand, you have a team that got up 28-0, but squandered that lead and let you pretty much essentially take a I don't want to say miraculous, but once in a lifetime type play from Ryan Williams to win that game.
I'll tell you one thing. And before we go into the rematch, who's got confidence? In a vacuum, watch them. Which team has juice? Which team's got, as the kids say, aura? Which team's got confidence in their abilities? There ain't a more confident football team in America right now than Alabama.
I would agree with
Not
that.
a one. You watch them come out of the tunnel, they know they're the show.
Mm-hmm.
They know it. They walk around with big chests. Tyler Booker's a motherfucking dog. Jalen Milroe is a dog. Ryan Williams is a dog. That whole defense is filled with killers. And almost to a point where they play a brand of football that's almost too confident. Defensively, they certainly play a style of football that is almost too confident. The reason everybody says, that you can get their DBs. Their DBs are gettable. You can get by them. You know why? They're left on islands all night long. All night long. They're out there by themselves playing man-to-man bump and run. Yeah, that's where they're vulnerable. If you're going to get them, that's where you're going to get them because you're going to take that one-on-one, right? So, they play a style of football that is uber, uber confident. Their quarterback thinks he's a superhero, is playing like a superhero. His team thinks he's a superhero. There ain't a player in team in America right now more confident than Alabama. So, going into a matchup, coming out of a matchup, whatever. In the fourth quarter of that football game, they were confident. Down one, first time, they were down in that football game. They didn't care. They walked right out confident. Not a silent person on the sideline. Those dudes know they're good. They know they're good. I'm not saying Georgia doesn't, but they walk around with an aura about themselves.
Sure, and you definitely saw that confidence when the game started, and frankly, it's probably part of the reason why you jumped out to such an incredible lead because Georgia did come into this game kind of like waiting to throw the first punch, and Bama just came out swinging and ended up hitting on pretty much every punch they threw in the first half. Mm-hmm. But looking at it from a Georgia perspective now, you have to feel good about your odds coming into a game where the next time you play will be in a neutral site. You won't have a run environment. You'd have to assume that you don't play as poorly as you do the first 17 minutes of that game execution-wise. And basically for the last 30 minutes of that game, you went toe-for-toe with them and beat them. I mean, the point spread in the final game was, 11 points to 27? I mean, you outscored Bama in the second half 27-11. Mm-hmm. So on the road, down by that much when they had pretty much all the momentum.
At one point, you were outscoring them 34-2, wasn't it?
27-2.
27-2. I think both teams should be confident and concerned going into another matchup.
For sure.
Bama should be confident that they have the best player, maybe the best two in the matchup with Milroe and Williams. That's obviously still very much a concern for Georgia. That's not going to change. And for Georgia's side of things, you should be confident that you finally created some consistent stalls from that offense. However, you had to deploy the 3-3-5 and you had to deploy a 3-safety look to do so. All right, so you threw the kitchen sink. All right, so if there's a rematch, guess what? The kitchen sink's on film. So they're going to prepare for what caused issues for them from your schematical adjustment. So I think both teams have reasons to have some type of belief and confidence going into a matchup, rematch, while also both teams have a reason to believe that there's a sense of concern.
So how much does the fact that, and obviously you showed your hand a little bit with throwing that 3-3-5 out there, they're going to be prepared for that if you do play them again. But the fact that you showed something and put something on film that works, does that not give other defenses opportunities to, try things out and tweak them and perhaps give you an advantage next time you play because you can pull back from 8 other games and say, all right, these teams tried this now after they saw what we did, and we can use that?
Other defenses got a C.J. Allen, Smile Mondon, and Jalen Walker.
No. But we have seen other defenses in this league for the first 4 games do some hindering.
We've seen tons of teams in college football bump to a 3-3-5.
No, that's not what I'm saying. We've seen some defenses be able to hinder this offense. Mm-hmm. Holding USF holding Alabama to 16 points until the fourth quarter, I would say is a damn good job at hindering them. Yeah. So there's been ways to stop this defense that work. And you'd have to imagine that through the next 8 games left in the regular season, there's going to be some blueprint somewhere that can say, hey, if you can accomplish this, if you can tackle, if you can execute, this will work.
And that's ultimately what it boiled down to still. I think in that stretch of the football game, Georgia didn't have any missed tackles. Georgia didn't have any, we jumped off sides on 3rd and 7s. Georgia played what required a perfect stretch of football in those 4 or 5 possessions, and it required absolutely perfect football to get those guys off the field. So I think, And there's some people, and you asked about USF, what did they do? What USF did a tremendous job of simulating pressure and not letting him know where it was coming from, and getting him on the ground. But Georgia couldn't get the dude on the ground, which is why they stopped blitzing him. They stopped pressuring him. They started rushing 3 and dropping 8 and keeping a spy on him and doing all of the different things that is required to attempt to stop this guy. Yep. Okay. I spent a lot of time on that film study, and Arian Smith catches a ball, probably score, maybe score. Changes things, certainly. The second possession offensively, I got it all written down right here. I don't know why I'm trying to do this off a recall like I'm fucking LeBron James. First possession filled with a drop. All right, stalled with a drop. Second possession was indeed the screen pass that got picked off. Third possession was the one backed up in your own end. Had a winner called on 2nd and 7. Should have been a touchdown. Had a screen and go called. Didn't get it hit on the third possession. So the first 3 possessions of the football game, I think there's winners right there on tape. You can look at them and say, hey, well, wide receiver drop, lack of execution. Wide receiver bust, lack of execution. Had the right call. Everybody got it called and dialed up. And then what was the screen and go. They showed simulated pressure. Your quarterback thought he was getting pressure. He checked the ball down. Everything got picked up, though. It was there. We showed it on tape. All 3 of those are lack of execution moments. Now, I hear coaches talk about we got to execute all the time. We got to execute. We got to execute. We got to execute. I hear it over and over again. And I've always told you what. When I hear a coach tell me we got to execute, what have I always said? What is he doing? He's blaming his players. He's blaming his players. He's taking the blame off of him, and he's putting it on his players. My guys got to execute better. We're calling the right plays. And to an extent, I see it on tape. I can look at it in the last 3 weeks. The offensive coordinator is calling winners. You have them on tape. They're right there. All you got to do is execute. This guy's not executing. This guy's not executing. Boom, 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 boom. Execution. So it keeps rearing its head. Coach, why does this keep happening? And I hear Auburn's head coach come to the microphone and him say, oh, we called 20 perfect plays last week. We didn't execute any of them. Who's that on? I'm really wondering. Is that on coach? Is that on player? Player. Execution. So, coach, hey, I've watched tape the last several weeks. I see lack of execution on tape. I see winners, good plays getting called. When execution doesn't happen, how are you as a football coach increasing the execution rates? How are y'all going and making yourself better at executing? That's what I wanted to know today when I went to the press conference. Jonathan, play this clip for me.
I'm sure as a football coach, when you go back and watch the film, there are moments where, whether it be a drop or a missed tackle, you feel like there might be the right play called, but execution might be lacking. Does your responsibility as a coach stop right there at execution, or is there a way as a coach that we can impact our execution rate? We can increase it?
I'm not sure I understand that question.
How do you go about executing better as a coach? When you feel like you've called the right play, just lacking execution, how do we increase the execution?
Yeah, you try to show them on tape and explain where we went wrong. You check your quality control of how much did we rep that, versus that look. Did we do it enough that we can actually say they should have gotten it right? Because if you do everything once and you only get one look at it, which that's not what anybody does, that's not enough. But if you do everything 10, 20 times, you can't do as much. And so then you run out of, you get lower execution, but you get higher volume. And it's a constant balance between what you're doing and how well you execute. And plus, on defense, it's hard because you don't know what you're getting. You don't dictate the play. They dictate the play in the formation. You respond to it. So it's offense, defense, both. And there's great examples of really good execution, and there's great examples of poor execution.
Now, I've watched a ton of Kirby Smart press conferences, and there is the most frequent question he asks reporters is, I'm not sure I understand your question. 90% of the time when he does that, he genuinely does not understand what the person's asking. He just wants to, all right, what are you trying to get at? What are you trying to get me to say so I can tell you whatever you want to write your narrative? That instance of I watched that was him saying, I don't understand your question, so he could kind of get time to think and figure out how he was going to answer that, because it's a very good question. I don't know if anyone really has the answer to. Where does the line of I'm a coach, I need to do this is my priority, end of, well, our players have to go out and make the plays?
It's a classic. Man, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Let me think about how I can answer that
While
question.
I paused with the man, that's a great question. He did answer it, by the way.
He did.
And he answered it the way that I expected him to answer, which is with a very in-depth, I am obsessed with what I do type of answer. And the obsession came out when he said, I go to my quality control staff and I ask them, how many times have we given this look against that look? How many times have I put my player in practice in this situation, asked him to execute, and then have that same thing happen on Saturday? And if we've prepared him enough, then I can expect him to make that play. But if I put him in a situation that is unfamiliar, or if I ask him to do something that we didn't prepare him for, or if there's a look out there that I didn't prepare him for and he drops it, or he busts the route, or he doesn't make the tackle, then that's on me. That's on me and my coaching staff in that moment. And I have never heard a football coach do that. I've never heard a football coach do that. Every single time a football coach has asked something like that, Hugh Freeze would have stared me right in the face and tell me that I got to get better players. That's what he said. Oh, I got to find guys that can make a play. That's what I got to do. I got to hope the Lord drops one down here on the plains for me so I can recruit. That's what he going to do. No. This man went to it and said, how many times have I given that guy that look? It's on me first after I show him, hey, this is probably where we went wrong. You know? Mm-hmm. And you're right. I'm not patting myself on. I thought it was a good question too, because I've heard, and not only a good question for that game, where in the last 2 weeks where execution has been lacking, okay? But going into this week, when the football coach on the other side can't do a damn thing with regards to accepting of responsibility.
Well, it's a good question because it's a subjective answer. Like, there's millions of coaches out there that some will say it all ends when the play starts. I can't help them anymore. You know, they are on their own there. What happens, the success or the failure of it is not on me anymore. It's on them because of what's happening. Some people will say, well, there's more I could have done to prepare them better for it. Kirby Smart is one of those guys. The question I have for you now is, how much of this game in Alabama beating Georgia would you put on, like, say, scale of 1 to 10? 1 being, we were so much better than this team, we should have won, but we shot ourselves in the foot so many times that we lost. 10 being, we were completely outmatched, we just got our asses beat. Where would you put that?
I would rank Bama beat your ass above we didn't execute, okay? Because Bama did execute. Bama executed for 4 quarters. Now, there was a stagnation period that I've told you that offense is always going to have, all right? But let's boil it down to this. I sent out an Instagram post yesterday of 7 different photos of 7 different moments where Georgia football players had the ball in their hands, offensive players, had the ball in their hands ready to make an explosive and didn't do it. And I can give you the 2 that were the most game-changing moments where Alabama wide receivers and Alabama weaponry had moments to make plays. Ryan Williams made both of them. It can really be that simple. I mean, that's what this game really could have boiled down to, right? Those guys made plays when they were asked to make plays. You did not. End of story. Mm-hmm. It can be that simple. It really can. We don't have to do somebody took their foot off the gas. No. Point number 1, Bama executed, made plays when they needed to, every single time they needed to. Georgia did not. Boom.
What I'm interested
Spent 90 minutes getting to that.
What I'm interested to see is tomorrow whenever we watch second half film is to see if there is a difference between not execute, if there is an uptick in the offensive execution rate, because I feel like this kind of happened against Kentucky. It was early on when you were not executing, and the next thing you know, you're in a dogfight or rock fight with Kentucky. You're having to crawl yourself out of this, and eventually you get the win. I'm interested to see if it is just kind of this thing of first half, something about the first half, something about the first quarter. It just takes a couple moments, and that's not going to fly against this SEC schedule. It's not going to. You can't do that time and time again, I feel like, against these next string of opponents that you have, because this could very well happen again.
This also felt like a game where, and this should not control the outcome of a game ever, and you shouldn't rely on this, but it didn't feel like any of the bounces went Georgia's way. Like that Ryan Williams catch in the second half that set Bama up for a field goal, like –
one of those games.
That's one of those types
games,
of things.
But also an incredible individual effort.
Not taking anything away from it.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I mean, it's the same as
there was very little luck in that one. I mean, it's luck that the ball bounced towards him.
That's what I'm saying.
But he also got behind an All-American.
He did.
You know?
Yeah.
They also designed the double move against the All-American.
Yeah.
In quarters match coverage.
Right. And
Ricardo
Lewis got behind 2 Georgia safeties in 2013. And
well, Trey Matthews sucks, but
look, that's what I'm saying. Like bounce, if it could have gone Georgia's way, it didn't in those types of things. Ryan, well, I'm not taking anything away from the play that he made.
Kind of.
No.
You called it a bounce, ensuing that it was lucky.
The shape of the football is so randomized that it does indicate whichever way. If it bounces to you, it's somewhat lucky. Now, the fact that he had the wherewithal to turn around in midair,
it didn't really bounce to him. He found it, and he made an adjustment to get underneath the ball. We could sit here and argue about this one all day, but it kind of lucky. But also an incredible individual effort.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't think anybody's.
I'm not trying to in any way undercut the performance that he had, but things like that, where it's like, damn, that could have gone. You know, who's to say that ball doesn't bounce towards Malachi Starks?
Yeah.
And that's a completely different outfit.
Fair.
One of those things. And then we're talking about how great of a play Malachi Starks made to first catch up after getting beat and then make a tip and get the ball. Stuff like that.
And then Georgia had one go their way when a tip pass went to Dan Jackson. He picked it off in the red zone.
Yeah, but that was Bama fans hit me with that. That was an incredible play by Smile Mondon.
Yeah,
yes.
It was.
He had no business being there. He was being an instinctual football player, got back into it, and caused the deflection, all right, and also caused the throw to be at the dude's shins instead of at the dude's face. So, again,
Dan Jackson played the game of his life.
Dan Jackson played the game of his life, so much so that Uncle Shay was out here giving him a shout-out.
Sunday guy. NFL guy.
Yeah. I was called a Georgia homer, I believe, for saying he would be a 4th or 5th round draft pick.
No.
Yeah. What do you think I'm going to get labeled with Brooks as a Georgia homer the rest of my life?
Well,
It just comes with the territory.
It's because of who I cover?
Yeah, it just comes
and
with
what
territory.
I cover? All right.
Welcome to the college football world, man.
Yeah, I'll just take that. Now, you had an interesting note in the chat, Kirby. You think Mike Bobo got flowers this weekend?
So
I didn't think that was possible. I thought he only got faux flowers.
So here's the thing.
The fake ones.
Yes, there was a lot of, this is Mike Bobo's fault. Fire Mike Bobo. There will always be. Georgia can win 700-0. There will be still people saying Mike Bobo called the wrong game. But more than I've ever seen before, and I didn't check my phone from basically halftime of that game till Sunday morning. Like I was like, I'm not going to watch this. But Sunday morning when I got on Twitter, there were a lot of people not only standing up for Mike Bobo, saying, he didn't give up 41 points, all of this, but also saying that second half by Mike Bobo was some of the best offensive coordinating I've ever seen as a Georgia fan. Things like that make me said, you don't ever really see, you haven't seen a Georgia fan base kind of collectively try to defend Mike Bobo in an instance like that I've seen in a long time. So I think that maybe people are starting to come around on Mike Bobo. Maybe people are realizing that some of the things that go wrong on offense aren't his fault, and a lot of the things that go right are because he's dialing up absolute winners. But that's kind of my point of view on that. What do you think, Jay Will?
Yeah, I mean, the only way I'll start to think that Mike Bobo's actually getting the credit and the flowers that he deserves is if these things continue to happen week after week, where the consensus verdict is, hey, Mike Bobo, he called a great game on Saturday. Regardless of what happened, Mike Bobo was doing his job because, I mean, it very well could go back to the same old stuff on Saturday.
It was even at the point where I saw people questioning Glenn Schumann.
Hell yeah.
Like, people were like, I don't think Bobo's a problem. Like, what's going on with Schumann here? Why does he not have to answer for this?
All right, so I'm gonna break it down. Some people, yeah, I did. I turned it on. We're on now.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah. People don't know ball. People don't know ball. And this is an exposure of people don't know ball. Twofold, all right? Bama defense got conservative, right? Mm-hmm. Bama defense got conservative. Oh, that's interesting. Because here we are, second quarter, 2:59 left. They're playing one high, all right? Now, I'm going to show you tomorrow this same exact look. They're doing the same exact thing. All right, now the other thing. I saw probably should have ran the ball more. Bobo didn't run it enough.
What a spin.
What a spin. Down 28. And also, what a heel turn for Bobo.
Mr. Run up the middle. Come on.
Mr. Halfback draw. Not running the ball enough. Yeah, you had 55 attempts in this football game, throw the ball, or however many times. Down 28-0, probably going to change that. Also, They played one high the entire night. I'm not going to ask you to run the ball when this is the damn picture. Please, for the love of God, don't run the ball. Please, don't ever run into that look. What are we doing? We got to run the ball more. Oh, we got to run the ball more. Why? Because you looked at the box score and saw that you passed it more than you ran it, so you run to Twitter and you talk about that?
I think that general football fans, what they think is, oh, they just know we're going to pass it because we're not running the ball, or like, oh, you have to be super balanced on offense. We're not keeping them on their toes.
We're too predictable.
Yeah, we're being too predictable. We're just throwing the ball every time so that everybody knows what we're doing on offense.
The amount of Georgia fans I've seen or heard say, Bobo, man, he's 2 runs up the middle and then throw on third down. It's the most predictable thing ever. Okay, well, what runs is he running? Is he running counter? Is he running trap? Is he running buck sweep? First of all, tell me that. That would indicate that you know what type of offense they're running. And then secondly, what are the concepts on passing routes? It's not just NCAA or EA 25 where it's 2 runs up the middle and then throw it. That's not how you play actual football. That's not how you coach actual football. So, again, more people than I saw of ever were doing that very thing that we just did for Mike Bobo. So I'm starting to think people are finally coming around on him.
Hey, by the way, this is a touchdown to Dylan Bell at the end of the game. Oh, look, one high safety, the other safety walked down into the box at 7.5 yards. You didn't change anything. Nothing changed. Nothing at all. That's why you got double moved here. So, okay, we can do the narrative all day. The football is the football. All right, the film is the film. And it's why we do it the way we do it around here. Okay? Etienne needs more run. Yes, he does. Etienne needs more run. I said this during the film study. I want to talk about this now because I don't know how many people watch film versus how many people do this. I think there's 2 categories of damn good dog status, right? I think there's the category of damn good dog that's such a good football player that he's undeniable a damn good dog. And then I think there's another category of damn good dog where that guy just does something or displays an effort on field or a longevity of his career where it's so obvious and apparent that he is willing to put the G over himself. Would you agree?
I think there's rare combinations of both.
Rare combinations of both. We had an applicant for both this week. We did. Mikel Williams played his ever-loving backside off and did not do so at a healthy rate. He was limping from snap 1 to snap 70 that he played on Saturday. I talked to somebody with very, very close, intel on this situation Saturday morning. I believe you were with me. Mm-hmm. And that individual was like, man, I don't know. Maybe 10 to 12 snaps. Maybe 12 to 15 snaps. I don't know how many he played because I don't do snap counting. Yeah. But it had to be north of 30.
Oh, he was in the football game a lot.
Yeah. The entire game, it felt like. Never checked out. Never tapped a helmet. Mikel Williams, damn good dog. Mikel Williams, first-round draft pick. Mikel Williams loves the G. That was obvious on Saturday.
And I think that's what Kirby Smart said in the post-game press conference is someone asked how he thought Mikel played or how Mikel felt. And he was like, well, I'll tell you one thing. He loves this place. He loves Georgia. He wants to be out there. And I think he proved that by showing up for his team and wanting to give it a go. Because I don't think he said that, actually. Never mind. So,
yeah, I mean, there's Mikel Williams, and then we talked about kind of last week. There was less to gain from this than most. Mm-hmm. Like Mikel Williams, we all believe is a stamped first rounder, might be a top 10 pick. Having a big game in one of these moments could secure you that number 1 spot. That's what you're playing for, essentially. He did not need to go out on the field for Bama this game. He probably shouldn't have the way he was running around. I mean, there were some points where I was like, dude, Mikel Williams looks like his ankle's hanging on by a thread right now. Mm. But he did, and the fact that you show that heart is very impressive. And I think it absolutely indicates he's a damn good dog. Mm-hmm. I think Dan Jackson also deserves this status too.
Yeah.
Because a
guy
guy
who's been playing on like half of a limb for 2 years, it feels like.
Yeah, well, not even that. Like we talked about this at the start of this year where – you finally get some run in 2021 as the walk-on. You're wearing number 47, for God's sakes. Finally make a name for yourself. And here comes 5-star Malachi Starks, who everyone is the number 1 safety prospect this year's draft class. You time to take a backseat to him. You finally crawl your way back up the depth chart. Here comes a 5-star KJ Bolden, who is, once again, taking some of your snaps. He never bats an eye. He never blinks, never, says, oh, I'm entering the transfer portal. stays 10 tones down. And I would argue that he was probably the best defensive back on the field on Saturday for Georgia.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just that type of stuff like that.
Game for 24.
Yeah, we said off there, it's probably the worst game I've seen from him.
I mean, I don't mind providing accountability.
Yeah, I mean,
Not at all.
Happens.
Multiple missed tackles.
I mean,
Got bad days.
there has to be a worse game that you play. So
Yeah.
I think we found it.
Needed him to play big, too. Needed him to play big.
Yeah.
All right, 3 takeaways from this football game. What do we got? I'll start first. Number 1, teams are going to take away the run based off alignment against you guys. It's been 4 games now. I haven't seen a football team try to play too high against you all season long. You have seen single high safety, 7 or 8 guys dedicated to the box within 9 yards every single snap. Okay, so Bama chose to do it to the tune of 416 yards passing. 416 yards passing. Okay, and 519 yards of total offense. They chose to do so, dying by the death of the sword from Carson Beck, as opposed to giving Etienne the opportunity to be an explosive runner. It's going to be the MO. All right, I don't foresee it changing until this wide receiver core and this quarterback consistently show to football teams that they're going to beat you by 50 today if you keep playing single high coverage. All right, so that's primary takeaway number 1. I haven't seen any team yet play a 2 high safety look on a consistent basis against this football team for the better part of this season and for the better part of the end of last year. The last team I saw do it was Alabama in the SEC championship game. They started out playing single high. Nick Saban got on the headsets and said, nope, we're not letting this happen today. Putting 2 safeties back, we're going to stop the run with the 6 guys in the box because we're Bama and we can do that. And that's exactly what they went on to do. Everybody else has required additional bodies into the box. Number 2, and the chat has hit on this, and I'm going to eat some crow here, not literally, but Georgia very clearly lacks a playmaker on the outside. They very clearly do. And at this point in the season, I wonder if you would be okay playing a true freshman like Daniel Calhoun at guard as opposed to being able to rotate in Micah Morris or being able to rotate in another NFL player on the offensive line because you have them and you have tons of them. And I wondered if you'd be okay playing Joseph Jonah-Ajonye instead of playing Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins right now because you're thinner at those positions because you've spent money at wide receiver. I wonder. I know last week I did this. 2 weeks ago I did this. I said, look, you have an ability to be deeper than everybody else in the world at the line of scrimmage because you prioritize this on the recruiting trail and you have avoided any of this other stuff. And maybe you just need one. Maybe you just need one of them because it damn sure was the difference in this football game. The one. Now, the one better be Ryan Williams. The one better be Jeremiah Smith. But you need one. You need one. You need a playmaker. That was an obvious takeaway. And number 3, the easiest takeaway for me, blame is way easier to give than credit. It is way easier to point the finger at something that you've done wrong than to look over there and say, hey, they're pretty good. They beat us today in this category. They're better than us right here at this spot. It's way easier to do the other way, to say we suck, coordinator sucks, our coordinator pulled the foot off the gas, yada, yada, yada. Way easier to do that than to actually take accountability for something you did.
One of my biggest takeaways was.
Can we stop and talk about the weapons first?
Sure.
Yeah.
How does this change? Because I'm going to tell you right now, in my opinion, unless Zacoby White turns into this, they don't have one of these on the roster. They haven't recruited one of these. If Nitro Tuggle was this, he'd be this. You know what I mean? If Nitro Tuggle was this big of a mismatch already, we'd know he'd be deployed.
The only thing I would say to this is I think Anthony Evans needs some more go. And the only reason why I say that is because and I know that I think he had 1 catch in this football game, but the 1 catch he had, he made like 3 people miss.
Yeah.
And every time he gets a punt return, he's making people miss and he's making a play. And so my only ignition to say this is because when he does get his hands on the football, he's making plays happen. So that's without anything knowing of what's going on at practice. I understand that you have guys ahead of him that have been here for a long time and whatnot, but he would be the only guy that I would say, like, if you need a playmaker, like this playmaker guy that you just kind of say, get him the ball and see what happens. He seems to be one of these players that could potentially open that up.
I want to kind of push back on this narrative.
Please do.
Because
I want to push back on it.
Because well, here's the thing.
You still threw for 400 yards.
That's what I'm.
You know?
That's what I'm saying as well. And no, Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith don't grow on trees, and when they do, you have to go out and try to get them. But part of me also feels like that the Georgia recipe for winning has never necessarily needed that. And the question is then the execution comes into it more. Like, the reality is Ryan Williams made plays when he needed to. And yes, I understand playmakers, but is that a 5-star, or is that more of an instinctual moments not too big thing? Because the other argument is, you can't look at the loss and compare something that they have that you don't. I mean, we could do the same thing about we need an offensive playmaker at quarterback. I mean, Jalen Milroe was a difference maker in this game. We got to get someone in there who can run the ball and throw the ball at the same time. Like, we can compare offenses to other teams. The reality was you had winners drawn up, like you said. You had game-winning plays created. The problem was you did not execute them. I don't know if that's necessarily, the 5-star, not having the playmaker, not having the difference maker guy out there. Georgia's had difference makers guys before. You could say Malachi Starks could have been a difference maker in this game. Mikel Williams could have been a difference maker in this game. There were external circumstances that changed that. Malachi didn't play a great game. Mikel was hurt. You could have a running back that was a difference maker in this game. You could have had someone that was a difference maker in this game. I think it's more that it's not that you don't have the difference makers. It's that when you needed difference makers to step up and emerge themselves, no one stepped up.
And I think that kind of plays into Georgia hasn't had one of these moments where their playmakers have had to step up yet. You haven't been in these games where you need one guy to make one play, or at least it's been a while since that's happened, I would say. But I do agree with what you're saying is this conversation of Georgia's wide receivers, it gets brought up when it's against Ohio State or it's against Alabama in 2021 or it's against Ryan Williams in this football game.
This is all I want to point to, okay? This is what I put on Instagram, all right, this morning. This is the Arian Smith drop, all right?
Yep.
Clear as day drop. We all see that. Ball's in his wickets. An absolute drop. I don't love this camera angle on your boy's teeth. All right, here's the Dominic Lovett. This is on 1st and 10. This isn't a drop. This is a missed wide open completion. Okay? I don't know if y'all can see that ball. That ball is right out in front of him, way out over here. Missed by about 6 inches. Okay? This ball. This is a dead cold, stone cold drop by Oscar Delp on, I believe, 2nd and 9.
Right.
Okay? Massive play. This is a Dominic Lovett drop on what people thought was a defensive PI. I thought both of these guys were pushing on one another. In fact, I think Dominic Lovett might have got the last push on that one. By the way, the ball's on his fingertip.
Mm-hmm.
It's right there. It's there to be made. This is Anthony Evans. Now, granted, this ball was also almost picked by Alabama, but it's right there in his wickets. It's right there in front of him, an ability to change that football game. This is another Dominic Lovett catch that ended up dropped. All right, so there are lots of this. I left an Oscar Delp drop out of that mix as well. There are a bunch of football plays in this game where it's like, whoa, they had a massive playmaker. You didn't, and it changed.
But they're only massive playmakers because they made the plays in this game.
Nah, he's consistently made plays.
That's fine.
And you've consistently failed to make them.
And I agree with that. But again, like, is that the difference of a 5-star and a 4-star? Like, is that somewhere where you're not spending enough money, or is that just you just so happen to get a handful of guys that, it didn't work out for? I mean, Brock Bowers, the playmaker of all playmakers for a Kirby Smart offense, I think we can all agree with. It wasn't like he was this world-renowned prospect of this guy as soon as he steps. Like, we thought Brock Bowers was a really good tight end prospect when he came in.
Yeah.
It wasn't like this guy's Jeremiah Smith, this guy's Marvin Harrison when he first got there, types of stuff like that. So the playmakers emerged. And it wasn't out of necessarily, these blue chip top. Now, I get it. Brock Bowers was a highly touted recruit.
Yes, he was the number 2 ranked tight end coming out of high school.
That's what I'm saying.
44th overall player.
I get that. But again, like, I don't necessarily know if this is we're not getting 5 stars issue as it is the players we haven't executed.
You're not even really landing, like, high-ranked 4 stars at that position.
That's true.
The highest-ranked player I think you've landed in the last 2 classes will end up being Taylon Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
This class.
Yep.
Inside the top 150. Okay, so it's not that, and because they don't have the assets to go out and invest at this position at a high 5-star rate and a high 4-star rate, they're having to take what I would consider calculated risk on certain traits for certain individuals, right? You took the nitro factor for maybe some 50-50 balls. You took Yazid Haynes a couple years ago because he was blazing fast and could take the top off the defense, or at least that's what you thought. Same reason for Anthony Evans, right? Some of these players who I think was a top 200 player, so Anthony was pretty highly rated.
Right.
But some of these things, you're taking calculated risk on certain traits. Some of them paid off, like the Ladd McConkey payoff, right? That's massive. But you haven't really had one of those massive payoffs in the last couple cycles.
And I would say, to be fair about this season, you had one of your starting wide receivers get kicked off the football team.
Who was an NFL football player.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. What
third round grade from the people
who was
that I
believed
talked
to be one of these game-changing type receivers who can make big plays and who could be one of these players. So I think that's and it was right before the season started. I think it certainly changed some things. It certainly made you have to speed up Colby Young's process of having to get him into this unit. So that's the only thing I would push back about this year. But I would also say that you had Brock Bowers. He was your playmaker. You lost him. It's very evident that you do not have Ladd McConkey and Brock Bowers on your offense right now.
Yeah, I just don't know if I'm ready to throw the hands up and say, like, Georgia's got to do something on the recruiting trail because of this one loss. I mean, and again, like, because Alabama had something that necessarily you don't.
Yeah.
Like, Alabama has
They're not growing Ryan Williams is unsure.
Right. Alabama has a Jalen Milroe. You don't. I get that. It's not like we need to press the emergency button and say we got to go out and find a dual threat quarterback now because we're not going to win games if we don't. There's different approaches to succeeding, and you said it last week. Georgia's approach has brought them success in pretty much every single game they've played, with the exception of Alabama. So I don't know if it's necessarily we need to put all hands on deck on getting a 5-star playmaker type guy. Would it be nice? I'm sure. I don't think anyone would say no, we don't want that, but I'm not complaining with the way the system is going about recruiting right now.
And maybe that changes with one recruit. Maybe that happens.
He better be the right one.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to do this, if Georgia's going to go out and land a 5-star, they're going to have to outpay everybody for him at this rate.
Right.
They get anti-recruited, they get counter-recruited to this position at such a high rate, and for obvious reasons, right? But I think Georgia's rebuttal to that would be, well, we haven't signed one of these guys in forever. The last time we signed one of these guys that was guaranteed a 5-star, everyone knew was a freak the moment he stepped on campus. It was George Pickens, and, you know.
Yeah, and I would say too,
Georgia's
like,
got his own things.
You know, going into this recruiting class, like who you have right now, maybe Elias Williams is this. Maybe he is this tight end playmaker.
Could very well be.
Could be that. So I mean, you still don't even know like what you have in this class just yet until they get here.
Maybe Nate Frazier becomes this in a handful of games down the road or next season
if he can catch the ball.
Right.
Yeah. We get that straightened out. Do you think that's something we should bring up again about how depth charts get tightened up in games like this? Because I feel like it's a conversation that has to be had over and over again of why isn't Nate Frazier playing? Why isn't so-and-so playing? Where's so-and-so?
Reeked to me like something freshman-esque happened. You know? That's what it looked like to me. He didn't take a snap.
No.
Not a one.
But to be fair, Branson Robinson
didn't either.
He had like
Branson
4
didn't
carries
either.
or something like that.
100%. It turned into a passing attack really, really quickly. That's why Cash Jack got deployed as early as he did and as often as he did. However, I'm gonna just I think something freshman happened.
Okay.
Maybe you showed up late to a walkthrough or missed a weight or something. Something happened. I
got you.
Well, it was also this game didn't really call for explosive run plays, so it's not like the opportunity was there for him to get as much carries. Now, the fact they didn't touch the field is a little suspicious, but
A little sus.
a little bit. But I didn't give my takeaways, by the way.
Oh, my bad. Come on.
First one, this team has way more fight than last year's, I think. And I think you saw in the
They better. They seem to get themselves into them a little bit more often.
oh yeah,
And they got a way tougher schedule, so they better have some fight.
exactly. I mean, going back to the game this year's Alabama game versus last year's Alabama game, we all know the famous Jalen Milroe quote where you could tell they gave up in the fourth quarter. This Georgia team never gave up. There was never one instance where I mean, even as a fan, when I gave up, it was like they were still fighting. Number 2 is they have major first half issues on offense.
Yeah.
Like at a point now where it's like this is actually legitimately concerning. We can talk about that later in the show if you want. And then the third one I have is these were the 2 best teams in college football.
Yeah.
Like I understand that Georgia's going to be ranked 5th after this. Bama's ranked number 1. They should be, but Texas might be right there with them, but those were two of the best teams in college football, no debate. And it's not really close.
Left Ohio State out there real quick.
Okay, Ohio State.
Not that we
Big
got
Will Howard
Buckeyes
guy?
fans in the chat, but, you know, a little due diligence there.
Will Howard done Swade Brooks.
Nah,
Dang, he
nah,
got
nah,
him.
nah. By the way, if Will Howard were in that situation last night, Saturday night, fucking pack it up. Go home. Over with. The moment Ohio State's down 28-0, sail. You can take your foot off the gas, Kalen. He ain't never coming back. I'm going to tell you that right now. Anti-Will Howard deep state, stand up.
Glad we got that one. My first takeaway was I think you learned the most out of Carson Beck in this game than you have ever, maybe. I think that you got to see what type of player he was. I thought you got to see how well he responded to mistakes. I thought you got to see how he carried this football team and how he commanded this offense down the stretch in crucial situations. I think you got to see a full display of who number 15 is in this football game. I think that's very valuable information to know. Number 2, pregame analysis was correct. While it did take a little bit for this to happen, it was a dogfight. It was a one-score football game. Explosives did matter, and they ended up winning the football game. I think that's kind of how –
Your takeaway was we were right?
Well,
I love that takeaway. That's
well,
an awesome takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say for the most part it did. I mean, outside of predictions, score predictions or whatever. But I think
mean,
that
for you guys.
for us, yeah. But I would say that we also all said it was going to be a one-score football game. It was going to be tight, and that both of these teams are really good. So that was one of my takeaways.
The magic number prevailed again too.
That's true. Oh, we did. That was another thing I said in the on our way home too. Is that both of your points continue to be right? Of first team to get to 30, last mistake. I think that's almost how you can analyze this football game for the foreseeable future. It feels that way.
Magic number in the last mistake.
Yeah.
I like it.
Look at us.
And then my third and final.
Guys, no ball.
My third and final one. Nothing else should scare you, in my opinion, for this regular season. As Georgia fans, I would say nothing should scare you because if you look back at teams who have beat you, and even in recent memory of Kirby Smart, of Jalen Milroe, Ryan Williams, those two guys, I don't think you're seeing another one of those guys in the regular season. You look back at a team that almost beat you, C.J. Stroud, Marvin Harrison, I don't think you're facing another one of those in the regular season. I don't think you're going to face these like top wide receiver units that you did in 2021 when you got Guy. I just think that moving forward, I think you saw the best team that you could possibly face, the team that should scare you the most. Outside of that, I would say that you should feel pretty confident moving forward.
Can I go ahead and tell you I'm not picking against Georgia the rest of the year?
Oh, the superstition?
No, not superstitious. I was worried about Alabama beating you because I was worried about Jalen Milroe. And I was right.
And
Players beat Georgia. Schemes do not. Schemes do not beat Georgia. They don't. You can't tell me. Find me the last scheme to beat Georgia where they lined up. It wasn't about unique players making unique efforts, individual excellence. It wasn't anything about that. They just lined up. They outcoached you for 4 quarters. If you can find me that, I'll pick against Georgia the rest of the year. But there ain't a football player on God's green earth that I think can line up for 4 quarters and terrify Glenn Schumann and Kirby Smart like Jalen Milroe. I think a lot of offenses think they can schematically get at Georgia, and schematically, you can't get at Georgia. They got too good of players. You've got to have individual excellence. I will be picking Georgia the rest of the year.
There's no scheme for good players.
No. There's no, they're a quarters match team, so we can just draw this up in the dirt and beat them. Well, they're a quarters match team today, or that possession. The next possession, they might play something completely different. All right, so I don't think you can just scheme this team to a dub.
And, I mean, past records would indicate that you're correct. I mean, they haven't lost – every game they've lost in the last 5 seasons, with maybe the exception of the 2019 South Carolina game, the teams had players that were exponentially difference makers. Kyle Trask, Kyle Pitts, Mac Jones, and that plethora of wide receivers. I mean, the list goes on and on. So, yeah. Bet on the teams with good players. Now, Texas with Isaiah Bond is going to be interesting. Tennessee with Nico and their wide receiver core is going to be interesting. There's going to be challenges up on the road, but I agree with you. Like, there's not enough of a one-person difference maker that Alabama has to necessarily win them a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. So sky's not gray for the rest of the year.
No, it is not. Do we have anything else tonight?
Let's talk about these slow starts because, I mean, this is bad.
I think it ties into how do you execute better.
Yeah.
I think they're one and the same. How do you start better and you start better through executing better. Well, how do you execute better? That's a tremendous question that I wish I had the answer to. If I had the answer to how do we make players make plays, buddy, I wouldn't be right here.
Yeah, I mean
I would not be sitting right here.
Well, the other question also is like, why is the execution so poor this year? Like they have not scored 10 points in the first half against a Power 14 this year.
That's bad.
Like it's bad execution. It's worse than it's ever been. So what gives there? Like it's also like not only how can we be better at it, but why is it so bad this year? Because you have to imagine the concepts, the way they're coaching, all those things. It's relatively similar. You have to imagine from year to year.
I think. Now, I've said the analysis of the second half offensive performance is very skewed in this football game. All right, I have said that, and I stand by that. I believe in that. However, confidence sometimes, and in terms of execution, can come from a basketball analogy of just seeing one go down. Yeah. You've got to be able to see a bucket get made, and that's exactly what I think we saw in the fourth quarter, where buckets were getting made and guys were seeing shots go down. So maybe they become a lot more confident about this. They execute at a higher rate moving forward. That's the only thing I can think of other than maybe one day it'll just click.
Yeah.
Maybe this is the difference between national championship winning teams and teams that come up just short. Maybe it is guys that can make those plays, right? Maybe it is Ryan Williams making that type of play, having that type of superstar to do that. Maybe it is making sure Malachi Starks gets the guy down on 4th and 1. That individual effort making that play. Maybe that's the difference.
It'll have to be.
It'll have to be.
And it's been that way for your last 4 seasons where you even had your 2 national title wins. I mean, there have been certain instances where executing a blocked field goal in the fourth quarter of a national championship, stuff like that, like making those types of plays, doing everything you can on a 4th down to stretch across and get a first down when you're in the red zone, down 14 to Ohio State. The game has always been about execution. And for one half of football last week, you didn't do it, and then the other half you did, and you saw the differences.
All right, I'm going to say this, and we can end it on this tonight. I don't think anybody would do this, but I'm going to do this. Alabama fans are my least favorite fans we've encountered on this network. You know why?
Why is that?
Because for years, their football program has been so damn good, that they think they've absorbed football knowledge. That because their football team is good, it makes them smart football fans. That it's just they're one and the same. It's not true. It's not true. You need some education. We try to provide that on this network. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Make sure you subscribe on your way out. We'll see you.
They're going to